Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, small law firm in central Minnesota. You know the drill by now, but I'm going to say it every single time anyway, because that is branding or something. I don't know. What do I look like, a marketing major? I hope not. I hope not. Oh my goodness. So how are you guys doing today? I hope you guys are doing well. I am still fighting off this mild illness. But that's the way of the world. That's the way of the world. Tonight we're going to cover a couple things. We're going to cover a little bit of YouTube censorship. We're going to cover a little bit of Parler dropping their lawsuit. And then we're going to cover a little bit of Parler filing a new lawsuit. That's it. That's what we're doing. Hope you enjoy it. I like this new Parler suit. I haven't read through the whole thing, but I've read through enough of it to think that it's already better than the other one. So that's great. What else is happening? Before we just get started. You look like you had family photos taken. No. Just got a new shirt. Apparently I should have less just t-shirts, because that's pretty much all I wear is t-shirts, but someone thinks I should have more than just t-shirts, so now I have some other shirts as well. Whatever. I did not watch all of Thunderfoot's analysis. I saw that Leonard French has slightly shifted his position. Am I thinning in the front a little? You mean of my hair or my body? I don't know if my hair is thinning. I suppose it's possible, but it's probably just how it's styled. Wow, look at all this stuff. Did you see? Did you do? Did you see? Nope. I haven't seen most of this stuff. But, okay. Thunderfoot put out a analysis of his own, and apparently swayed Leonard French more towards the idea of fair use. I stand by my analysis. I'm not going to change it because that's just, I don't change. I've been static my entire life and forever. No, I did not see Crowder talk to the Nevada official. I ain't watched shit. There you go. I didn't watch nothing. Nothing at all. So no, I haven't watched anything. Here's what I've seen. Headlines and thumbnails and titles of things. I saw the quartering is under attack. Something, SJWs. Don't know. Have no idea about it. I thought Jeremy was always under attack. This one, he seemed a little bit more concerned about people going after his sponsors or something. I don't know. I saw that Thunderfoot did his thing and Leonard French kind of changed his analysis more towards fair use. I saw that Mike Dunford initially said that I'm an idiot, that it's definitely not fair use. And then he changed his mind, and then it was maybe fair use, and then he changed his mind back, and now says it's not fair use again. Don't care. If I wanted the opinion of someone who never practiced law, I would just ask anybody. So what Mike Dunford says is about the least relevant thing in anyone's life at all. The only horror of Mike Dunford is that he's actually a professor somewhere of something, which makes me sad. What's my ancestry? Polish, mostly. Let's see. You should ask Keeps for a sponsorship to save your hair. Oh man, if I was worried at all about going bald, there'd be different discussions, but I'm not. That's that. So, the other thing I saw today was on YouTube replying to me on Twitter. So this is what we're going to open with. Let me get it all set up here. We'll first do this thing. Okay. I assume that can be read. Can that be read? That can be read. All right. So, Team YouTube has struck my archive channel for uploading the CPAC stream from day 3, saying that it promotes lies about the election. This is false. That stream covered a major political event in which other speakers mentioned the election. I found at least 7 full broadcasts of Trump's CPAC speech from major media sources, which I'm guessing is the genesis of the claim, because Trump brought up the election a lot, right? Hey, YouTube, get your shit together on this. Stop stifling speech. This is a major event, and your discriminatory enforcement is pathetic. YouTube responded to me today. After carefully reviewing the video, our team confirmed that it violates the election integrity policy. Political news and events can be subject to misinformation, so the availability of quality information sources is crucial. We've sent you a DM with more info. Okay, so they did send me a DM. I'm gonna show you exactly what they said. You know, they're gonna probably tell me exactly what in my video violated it. You know, where I was somehow an unreliable resource or something like that. They're gonna tell me what I said, what was said in the video that would do this, right? Obviously. Of course they do. So they sent their own tweet in Twitter following up. We wanted to share some resources and details on the removal of the video. Video is removed for violating our election integrity policy. We do make limited exceptions for appropriate educational, example documentary, artistic, and scientific contexts, but only in limited circumstances where the purpose of posting is clear. Linking you to this HC article for info about the importance of context in our election-related policy as well. That doesn't give me more info. It doesn't give me shit about what happened. It doesn't tell me at all why my video was struck. I'm covering CPAC. I'm watching a thing, and I'm providing commentary. Somebody at CPAC says something about the election. I don't endorse the view. I don't care what. The election's over. I've said this thousands of times. I've been saying it the whole time. That the election was basically over. A lot of other people disagree. That's fine. I should be able to talk about people that disagree. But there's no way that Joe Biden is not going to be president without being impeached. So I don't get it. I don't get it. I never endorsed the topic or whatever. I'm covering it. It is interesting to people. They want to know what happened in the election. They'll never get to find out because it's never going to court. Never. Not in any way that's substantive. So, I did reply to them. So I said, your policies are inconsistent and biased. Everyone sees it. You're taking a big gamble on this stuff because if the opposition gains power, they won't appreciate being censored in a biased manner. I do a lot of apologetics on behalf of YouTube to my audience, who you guys consider customers but actively hate. So, I, of course, didn't really expect a reply, but I also didn't get a reply. So there you go. That's the YouTube discussion. I'm still waiting for my partner manager to get back to me on that one. It's one I'm going to follow up with, and if I can get someone on the guidelines team on the phone, I've got a couple choice words for them. I have talked to someone very high up on monetization before about a different issue, so maybe I'll get a chance to get a discussion with someone on guidelines, because this shit is bogus. I'm so tired of it. How are we supposed to pretend that news doesn't happen? How are we supposed to pretend that news doesn't happen? You guys want to know a secret? The entire stream is still up on this channel. That's how inconsistent their policy is. The entire stream is still up on this channel. It's still public. There are no strikes on it at all. There's nothing has happened to it. Stupid. Really stupid. So, anyway, that's that. K Maxar, you know what the best part? You say that means it was manually flagged. It could have been, but I mean, we're talking, I don't even know how many views it has. Let me check. The struck one had, before the strike. Yeah, here we go. 183 views. That's it. 183 views. It had barely come out of processing before getting struck. Heck, if I uploaded it again, it might not get struck. That's the amazing part of it. So anyway, very stupid thing. Like I said, I'm gonna follow up on it because I do like to know what's going on with this stuff, and if I can ever get someone on, to talk to and figure out what's going on. And I like to learn about YouTube's systems, consistent or inconsistent as they may be. I like to do that because I share with other creators. I tell them what to look out for. I tell them, what my experiences are, what I've learned. I know that not everybody gets partner managers or anything like that. So when I have access to resources that other people don't have access to, I'm going to share them, because we're, in a weird way, we're not really competing with each other for the most part. I mean, the only place where YouTubers compete is on live stream views that are live, right? Because my competition right now is anybody else live streaming. Everything else is just a function of time and opportunity. So if you click on my video, it doesn't mean you're not going to click on someone else's video. Most likely, I guess if it's the exact same or something, but I mean, if people are interested in a topic, they're going to click on whatever. But live streams that's the time where we're competing for your eyes at a particular time. So, outside of that very, very limited scope of overlap, not really competing. So I like to share information with my creators, with my co-creators whenever I can, because, we're navigating a system that changes all the time and that is geared towards making it actively difficult to do business. Doesn't make any sense, but that's what they are. So, on that note, make sure to check out my locals community. The live stream is uploaded to that locals thing, but it's not processing. I don't think they like 8 hours of video being uploaded at once. So I might have to break it up into segments and upload it over there. But we'll see. I'm giving the system a little bit of time to see if it'll process through. But that, like I said, locals will be coming out of its beta. My page is beta. Great. Clip it, I guess. My page on locals is currently in a sort of beta testing right now. You're welcome to come join. It'll be coming out of that very soon. Almost got everything set up. What I'm trying to do now is rig up Discord access for people who are on locals. So you can join up over there, hang out, and exclusive content is coming over there soon. And once that thing is ready to go, I will be moving off of Patreon and off of Subscribestar as soon as that can be facilitated. I don't want to have them sitting around. I don't really want those to be active platforms. I'm not a big fan of Patreon at all, and Subscribestar is fine. It's just not all that useful to me. It doesn't have good functionality. Locals has very good functionality, and there's already people over there commenting and talking and stuff like that. So go check it out. Links in the description, all of that stuff. But I'll be pushing it very hard once it gets fully implemented. That said, let's see. Is logos the thing Dave Rubin co-founded? Yes. It is. And eventually, I'll probably host content over there as well as here on YouTube. But most importantly, it'll be for exclusive content. That'll only be for members over there on locals. Okay, with that, let me read some of these super chats, and then we will jump into this Parler thing, which is going to take the bulk of the time tonight. Fname Melname says, why I pee easier with one arm all the way in the air? Well, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Do we have any doctors who know the answer to that? Let's see. The Rekieta who cries says, you thought you had killed me, Nikki. I've come from a dark universe where you failed to rid yourself of the part that cries. I grift, drink, and law as well as you, but I am 100% pure soy and Democrat. No. No. It's like Jet Li in The One. Bad Vibe says, okay, interesting question. In regards to cheating and marriage, can an individual who participated in cheating and knows the individual is married, can the other spouse sue the non-spouse for tortious interference? No. Courts don't tend to get into lawsuits that involve sex. Sex, contracts, agreements that revolve around sexual or intimate relations, courts don't deal with that. Have I seen creative punishments handed out by a judge? Not really. Nothing memorable. Judges are bound by their punishments to legal remedies, so it makes it kind of difficult. But there is one judge who heavily encourages alternative settlements. I saw your messages, Raviones, and I will see if I can find that judge, because he was famous for creating solutions rather than jail time and stuff like that. So I'll see if I can find it and send it over to you. I just can't remember what his name is. Kiwi Goes Live says, in 1998, I made my senior quote the chorus to Faith No More's Ashes to Ashes, and it was printed in the yearbook. A few days ago, someone figured it out and tipped off the school. Can I get in trouble for it? Wait. Faith No More. You mean David Bowie? No, Faith No More, Ashes to Ashes. Okay, here's full lyrics. Give it all to you, then I'll be closer. Smiling with the mouth of the ocean, and I'll wave to you. With the arms of the mountain, I'll see you. What would you be in trouble for? Here you say ashes to ashes, and because the internet has so ruined everybody, I go straight to the Holocaust. I'm like, oh my God, he made a Holocaust joke in a yearbook and it's coming back to him. What do you mean, like for copyright or something? No, you're fine. Nothing like that will be a problem. Besides laws against cringe. There you go. Hey, it's senior quote in a yearbook. Cringe is allowed. Ace Brain 2003 says, yo, Nick, I'm buzzed and came up with a new euphemism for conspiracy theory, dubbed collusion hypothesis. There you go. That works. Let's see. Did you guys see? I get to do this now. Did you guys see Cuomo apologized? Let's take a look at this Cuomo apology. You guys remember a guy named Vic Mignogna, right? You guys remember that guy? Oh my goodness. Trying to find a good do they have just a press release or is it video? I think it's video. Oh, God. Hold on. Let's do this. Anyway, we're going to use this as instruction time. Now, you guys know probably what I'm going to say about this already, but I'm going to say it anyway as we go. Do I remember Carl Benjamin? I do. He was on the show. I like him. You set locals membership at $5, but I'm on a fixed income and my limit is $10 per month total. Ruben has said the floor is $2. Could you lower the membership levels? I don't know yet. NQS. I haven't. That's like the $5 one's the default. I have not decided what the membership levels will be. So we'll figure all that out soon. Like I said, it's still in beta. Okay, here we go. Let's get this ready. Truck and Bear says his name is Michael Siccanetti. He's an Ohio judge, I believe retired now though. Oh, there you go. Cool. Are locals memberships per channel? I think so. There might be like a generalized locals membership, but their individual channels have their own stuff. All right, so here we go. This is Governor Cuomo apologizing for making women feel uncomfortable. Let's listen to this.
As you probably know, the Attorney General is doing an independent review, and I will fully cooperate with that review. Now, the lawyers say I shouldn't say anything when you have a pending review until that review is over. I
Right. Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
understand that. I'm a lawyer too.
Not a good one.
But I want New Yorkers to hear from me directly on this.
No, you don't.
First, I fully support a woman's right to come forward. And
Is this man's about to cry?
I think it should be encouraged in every way. I now understand that I acted in a way that made people feel uncomfortable.
The reason I asked you if you remember Vic Mignogna is because he made an apology. I should almost bring it up. It's almost worth bringing it up. But this sounds similar. Take off your biased aspects of this. If you are, I don't know if you are, but Vic's apology sounded similar, and that was a big problem for it. Don't apologize.
It was unintentional, and I truly and deeply apologize for it.
Don't. For what?
I feel awful about it, and frankly, I am embarrassed by it.
This is why PR firms are dead. They're dead. I know Vic is a good dude. These are completely different situations. I'm not comparing the two men, okay? Not comparing the two men. I'm comparing the people who wrote the statements for the two men, PR firms. And remember, a bunch of law Twitter morons out there were suggesting, oh, just get a PR firm. PR firms do this shit. Lawyers tell you to shut your damn mouth. Shut up. Shut up. Don't say anything. Don't apologize. Don't say anything. Cuomo's out here apologizing, probably on the advice of a PR firm rather than on advice of attorneys. And there's a reason you don't have PR firms do this.
And that's not easy to say.
PR firms
But
are
that's
dead.
the truth. But this is what I want you to know, and I want you to know this from me directly. I never touched anyone inappropriately. I never touched anyone inappropriately. I never knew at the time that I was making anyone feel uncomfortable. I never knew at the time I was making anyone feel uncomfortable.
Stop saying everything twice, you weirdo. That's worse. That's worse.
And I certainly never, ever meant to offend anyone.
I
hurt
did.
Anyone.
I meant to offend everyone all the time. Just run into it. Stop listening to PR firms. Stop it.
Or cause anyone any pain. That is the last thing I would ever want to do. I ask the people of this state to wait for the facts from the Attorney General's report before forming an opinion. Get the facts, please, before forming an opinion. And the Attorney General is doing that review.
Get the facts, please, before forming an opinion. They already formed an opinion. You can't tell people to wait to form an opinion. It's impossible. They form an opinion the moment they hear about anything. You're just getting more people to form the opinion earlier before the facts by addressing it publicly. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Stop. Stop. You people need to stop. We've got to stop. It's not 1984 anymore. Press releases are not how information travels. Information goes on Twitter, it goes on Facebook, it goes on YouTube. It's instant. It's instant. There's no week delay between a paper getting a story and going to print. There's nothing like that. There's no, I can get out ahead of the printing cycle on Sunday if I just get on the Friday night news. I'll get on the Friday night news and I'll make my apology before it hits. No, it's gone. It's dead. PR firms that are stuck in this era are the most useless expenditures, and celebrities over and over. The reason we're playing this is because it sounds like every single celebrity apology I've ever heard. Ever heard. Every one of them says the same thing. Everyone. All of them. And they paid for this.
I will fully cooperate with it, and then you will have the facts.
Oh, yeah,
And
then
make
we'll
a
have them.
decision when you know the facts.
Okay.
I also want you to know that I have learned from what has been an incredibly difficult situation for me as well as other people.
For me, it's hard for
And I've
me.
learned an important lesson. I'm sorry.
I've learned my lesson. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. No, they don't. People don't forgive you. There's no purpose in doing this apology. It only makes you look worse. It only makes you look worse. There's nothing that this can do to help you. Every apology, ever. Tina says, all this Me Too BS is just to distract from all the people he had killed in the old folks' homes. That's fine. Maybe that's why he's apologizing. Maybe that's his big plan, but it doesn't, for this scandal, it doesn't make him look any better.
I'm sorry for whatever pain I caused anyone. I never intended it.
Sound familiar?
And I will be the better for this experience.
Sorry for the pain I caused. I didn't intend to. Wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong, but I'm sorry that people felt bad. Blah, 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 blah. It always is the same. It's always the same statement. Doesn't work anymore. Stop hiring these PR firms. Start hiring people who understand how public relations work today, not 20 years ago. Stop. Look, I know a lawyer who is dealing with a situation like this. They went to a PR firm. PR firm typed up a statement, similar sort of thing. Typed up a statement, handed it to the lawyer. Lawyer looked at it, said thank you, walked out of the office, threw it away on the way to the elevator. It's the same thing. PR firms, anybody can write that. Anybody can write that. Oh, here's what you got to do. You got to show contrition, but you got to, don't admit anything, but you got to show apology, empathize with the hurt that people are experiencing. Go for their, understand their emotions and the place that they're in. Talk about how this has negatively impacted you. You've learned from it. This is all something, a product of a previous generation, blah, 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 blah. And then you say all this and everything's going to be fine. It's never fine. It hasn't worked for anybody. Name one where it's worked. Name one celebrity apology you've seen actually function. No. Let me tell you how to do it. You don't say anything about any specific event. You come out and say, the allegations about me are false, categorically. That's it. If you're going to say anything, everything they're saying about me, all of these allegations are categorically false. I refuse all of them. Period. Oh, but someone was hurt. Nope. Nobody was hurt. because the allegations are false. The reactions to the allegations are false because the allegations themselves are false. That's it. I don't get it. I don't get why we're still in this place. We've seen high profile person after high profile person taken down. Their apologies have meant nothing. It's like pouring gasoline under the flames of the Hindenburg. But the guys who said this is categorically false, guess what? They're still getting work. They're still out there. Todd Habercorn. This is false. I have the receipts. Jesse Pridemord's a lying whore. Done. Here's the receipts. Put him down. Habercorn still gets work. That's it. You don't owe anybody explanations or apologies. Anything you need to say to an employer can be said to an employer. On Twitter, no. Will never help you. Will never help you. Employer says, "Hey, do you know about this situation?" No. Can you give me some details? Yeah, here are the details. That never happened. That's false. Were you at this place? Yes, but the information you just gave me never happened. It's false. Did it happen in a particular... It didn't happen. It's false. I don't know what else to tell you. The story that you have is not true. Newspaper calls you. Hey, did you participate in this thing? No, it's false. But you were at this show or this place or this studio. Yep, I was there. The story that you have is false. You're saying someone else made it up? Yes, it's false. There's no other thing you can say in 2021. There's no meeting people on their feelings. There's no trying to find neutral ground. There's no empathizing with their loss and sharing how this experience has made you realize that something about you needs to be fixed. No more. Stop it, stop it, stop it. That's what I got on this subject. I saw the article about Cuomo. I didn't listen to his stupid speech before. I just read some of the statements from it, and I was like, I've seen this speech 50 times. I've seen these same statements everywhere. Stop making them. All right. Anyway. So, I'm not going to pull up the document for Parler folding their lawsuit. But the long and short is that Parler collapsed their lawsuit against Amazon. They ended it. They had a federal lawsuit against Amazon, and they withdrew that lawsuit. And then they filed a new lawsuit against Amazon. This time, it's not in federal court. It is in the Superior Court of King County, Washington State. So Parler is now suing Amazon in Washington State rather than federal court. It's probably a better move. Their complaint is much, much more robust. It is 66 pages. I have it pulled up here. We're going to take a look at it. It has its focus in the right place. And so far, based on my skim, I already like it a lot better. And the reason I like it a lot better is because some of the stuff in here is stuff I was saying should have been in the last lawsuit. So good job, Parler, for finally getting that stuff right. So we'll see about it. We're gonna take a read through on this, and yeah, it's probably gonna take up the rest of the show. After this show, we're gonna go on to Twitch and watch Tombstone. So, Mithrin Emrys says, "Hey, people, totally sorry. I probably hastened the death of your Grampy and Nana. And I'm also sorry about whatever it was I did wrong. Please don't cancel me. Remember when Z won the Emmy? Hashtag best governor. Hashtag orange man bad. Am I right? Exactly. Exactly. Cuomo's a terrible, terrible person. Ed Gein says, of course, the day you're finally going to watch Tombstone, my internet takes a complete shit. Hopefully it's back up in time. FML. Well, we'll see if it is. We'll see if it is. I'm watching it anyway. Okay, so here's the, this is the level of zoom we're sticking with. Without further ado, defendants Amazon Inc. and its subsidiary Amazon Web Services are commercial Goliaths. Amazon is the fourth most valuable company in the world with a worth of nearly $1.7 trillion, about the annual GDP of Russia. Amazon is also the largest of the big five big tech companies in the United States, has the fourth largest share of the global internet advertising market. And Amazon Web Services Inc. is the world's leading cloud services provider, capturing nearly a third of the global market. And when companies are this big, it's easy to be a bully. Many startup companies that have appeared to be a threat to Amazon and Amazon Web Services have felt their wrath. Plaintiff Parler LLC is merely the latest casualty, a victim of Amazon's efforts to destroy an up-and-coming technology company through deceptive, defamatory, anti-competitive, and bad faith conduct. So, good opening statement here. They've laid out the basis. They're big. They like to stomp on small people because it's easy. And here's how they did it. This is a preview of my causes of action. Before the actions complained of here, Plaintiff Parler LLC had one of the hottest rising apps on the internet. I want to say, since Parler opened back up, I have gained, I think, 0 new followers on Parler. It feels dead to me. I post over there because I do, but I mean, I had 2,000 followers when it went down. I had 2,000 followers when it came up. I have not made it to 2.1 thousand. So, it's dead. It's dead. A young startup company that sought to disrupt the digital advertising and microblogging markets with a unique approach, Parler positioned itself as an alternative to the likes of Twitter and Facebook. To do so, Parler did not employ what some have called surveillance capitalism. Unlike its social media competitors, Parler refused to track and sell its users' private data and target advertising based on that data. This made Parler a beacon to those who sought a free and safe place to espouse political and other views that other microblogging and social media platforms sought to censor, and allowed Parler to offer lower rates to digital advertisers. But this rising popularity and alternative business model also made Parler a competitive threat to the likes of Amazon, Twitter, and Google, 4 giants of the internet who derive enormous revenue from digital advertising. And that threat grew very real in late 2020 and early 2021. Now notice they've set themselves up as a competitor who offered lower price, when Parler was poised to explode in growth. So together, Amazon, AWS, and others attempted to kill Parler. See Glenn Greenwald, How Silicon Valley, in a show of monopolistic force, destroyed Parler. On January 9th, 2021, Amazon Web Services repudiated and breached its contract to host Parler's website and app on Amazon's cloud services in bad faith. Amazon tried to justify the repudiation based on the allegations against Parler that Amazon knew were false. Amazon then leaked the same false allegations to the media in a successful effort to tarnish and defame Parler's business. These strong-arm tactics were unlawful and tortious. They were also surprising to Parler. It had a good relationship with Amazon with no signs of trouble until about a day before Amazon terminated Parler's services. The reason Amazon gave for terminating Parler's services, that Parler ostensibly was not pursuing appropriate methods to control the content espousing violence on its platform, was untrue. Indeed, Parler stood in sharp contrast to the likes of Twitter, Facebook, and even Amazon itself, all of whom host substantial amounts of violence-inducing inciting content. Including Twitter right now is hosting content from a group organizing a violent riot on March 6th. Specifically violence, and they've clarified that they're calling for violence. That's up on Twitter right now. Further, there was nothing new about the operation and content of Parler's platform. The day Amazon announced it would be terminating Parler's services in roughly 24 hours compared to any time in the 2 years Amazon had been hosting Parler. Then, as before, Parler quickly removed any arguably inappropriate content brought to its attention. And never during those 2 years before that fateful day had Amazon expressed any major concerns with Parler regarding the matter. In fact, just 2 days before the termination announcement, Amazon had assured Parler that it was okay as to problematic content. Parler relied on this representation and similar representations from Amazon to the detriment of its own business. Finally, from the beginning of their contractual relationship, Amazon had known that Parler had used a reactive system to deal with problematic content, and not once had Amazon said that such system was insufficient or in violation of the party's contract. What is more, Amazon knew that Parler was testing out a new proactive system that would catch problematic content before it was even posted. By the way, have you noticed that if you send a parlay on Parler, it goes up after it goes through some sort of approval? On Twitter, it doesn't do that. Twitter's never been held to have an anticipatory system. Parler has it. Twitter doesn't. But two things had changed for Amazon. First, a few weeks before terminating Parler services, Amazon had signed a major new contract with Parler's principal competitor, Twitter. Second, when Facebook and Twitter moved to ban former President Trump from their platforms in early January, it was expected that Trump would move to Parler, bringing many of his 90 million followers with him. And Amazon knew that Trump and Parler had been in negotiations over such a move. If this were to materialize, Parler would suddenly be a huge threat to Twitter in the microblogging market and to Amazon itself in the digital advertising market. So here they're starting to set this out. They needed to set up the conspiracy better in the last one. So that's something that they're working on here already. Hey, what's up, Tug? How you doing, buddy? Thus, Amazon pulled Parler's plug. Nice alliteration, you scumbag. And to further kick Parler while it was down, after it had terminated the contract, Amazon directed hackers to Parler's backup databases and has been secretly selling Parler user data to anyone with a certain type of Amazon account. Oh, that is scandalous. That is really scandalous. I hope they can support that with a factual allegation. Because of these actions, Parler was unable to be online for over a month. And even as of the date of this complaint, Parler has been unable to regain the reputation and success it enjoyed before Amazon terminated its services. Not surprisingly, when an internet-based company cannot get on the internet, the damage is extraordinary. And when confidential user data is hacked or sold to others, the company suffers enormous reputational damage. Now, you know why they pulled their thing out of federal court, right? Because they had a judge born in 19-aught something. Like that, not really, but she refers to the aughts. Person was appointed to the bench before I was born. They had no concept of how to run that lawsuit, and they had no chance with that judge. That judge was not going to understand what was at stake because they already failed to understand. And by the way, that placement on that judge's bench is why Parler will probably fail as a business for the rest of its time. Parler's not going to make it. They're not going to make it. Even if they win this lawsuit, they're not going to make it. And it's because of that judge. Just before all this occurred, Parler was about to seek funding and was valued at $1 billion, something Amazon also knew. As a result of the unlawful actions of Amazon and Amazon Web Services, Parler has permanently lost tens of millions of current and prospective future users, many of whom have migrated to other platforms, and hundreds of millions of dollars in annual advertising revenue. Parler therefore brings this suit for multiple violations of Washington's contract, tort, unfair competition, and consumer protection laws. I'm going to skip the parties. We know it's Parler, Amazon Web Services. Jurisdiction is Superior State Court of the State of Washington. Let's get to the facts. Oh, wait, let me, this stream will be uploaded to the archive channel. There you go. All right. Sorry, I needed to pin the comment. I forgot to pin the comment. Parler's platform is not like Amazon's, Twitter's, or Facebook's platforms. Twitter and Facebook gather data on their users and sell it. These tech giants also employ targeted advertising by leveraging user data, something they can charge advertisers more for. Further, Twitter and Facebook use artificial intelligence to direct users to other like-minded users. Similarly, users can form groups on Facebook and Twitter that make it easier to communicate with those who see the world the same. This enables these social media platforms to use targeted advertising, something they can charge more for, but these features also create echo chambers and make it easy to encourage and facilitate group activity. And that is by design. By design, Parler is different. For example, how one experiences Parler is a function of one's individual choices, not driven by AI. So Parler does not encourage its users to see and interact with like-minded folks. Similarly, there is no way to organize into groups on Parler, making the coordination of group activity very difficult. And Parler does not gather data on its users and sell it. In other words, Parler does not use surveillance of its users to make money. As Parler tells its users, we never share or sell data. Privacy is our number one concern. Your personal data is yours, and Parler does not engage in targeted advertising, meaning it can charge less to advertisers. This makes Parler a threat to the surveillance capitalism of Amazon, Twitter, Google, and Facebook by potentially luring away advertisers and users interested in greater privacy. There's a lot of quotes here. Not going to read the quotes to the citation. As to how Parler works, a post on Parler called a parlay, an equivalent to a tweet on Twitter, is content that can be shared with others. Likewise, an echo with comment can also be shared with others, is the equivalent to a retweet with comment. Both a parlay and an echo with comment will go out to a person's followers. However, on Parler, one cannot share a comment to a parlay with others. This is unlike Twitter, for instance, where one can share a comment on a tweet by retweeting it. Oh, okay, so you can't share a response with other people. Further, to directly message someone requires that one be verified by Parler, unlike on Twitter and Facebook. Thus, on Parler, a user must upload a selfie and their identification, generally a driver's license, to be a verified user capable of directing a message to another Parler user. On Twitter, by contrast, anyone can send direct private messages. This is telling me exactly why I don't want to use Parler. Also on Parler, there is a difference between impressions and views. The latter is a very small percentage of the former. Thus, if one is following another individual on Parler and that user posts a parlay, that parlay will show up in one's feed and be counted as an impression, without the recipient ever actually looking at the parlay. If one does then look at the parlay, it will be counted as a view. Parler's internal data shows that users are on Parler about 22 to 28 minutes a day, on average spread over multiple sessions. Thus, when there are hundreds of comments on a parlay, few people spend the time to read through all the comments. Given all of this, the only way for something posted on Parler to get a lot of attention and thus possibly have influence is if it is posted by someone with a lot of followers. Since its inception, Parler has carefully policed any content on its platform that incited violence. It has had in place community standards that expressly disallow users from posting such content, and as soon as such content is brought to Parler's attention, a team assesses the flagged content and votes to remove it if it indeed does incite violence. Now, Amazon, Twitter, and Facebook allow content promoting violence. Many social media platforms have increasingly struggled with their inability to completely block content that promotes violence, but especially Twitter, Amazon, and Facebook. For example, on January 8th, 2021, the day before Amazon announced it was terminating Parler service, one of the top trends on Twitter was Hang Mike Pence, with over 14,000 tweets. And earlier that week, a Los Angeles Times columnist observed that Twitter and other large social media platforms bore some responsibility for the Capitol Hill riot by allowing rioters to communicate and rile each other up. Allowing them to communicate. Wow. Man, wouldn't want to allow people to communicate. Has previously noted such coordination would not have been possible on Parler. I mean, I get what Parler's doing here, but this is the nature of lawsuits that I actually hate. Incitement is such a specific thing, and we've got non-lawyers determining what is incitement when almost no judge on earth would consider it incitement. Now, again, I know why Parler is doing this, but it puts into perspective where we are, doesn't it? Like, charging incitement is almost impossible. But these platforms are stopping people from communicating because it'll, quote unquote, they're allowing people to rile each other up. What is riling up? Is that a crime? If I rile someone, is that a criminal act? I've never heard of riling as a criminal act. By the way, did you guys hear that song from the Yellow Flash stream? I hope you did. I hope you did. It's beautiful. Violence inciting material has also continued to circulate on Twitter after Amazon pulled Parler's plug, with such posts receiving wide play. For instance, noted critic of President Trump, Alec Baldwin, tweeted recently that he had had a dream about that the ex-president was on trial for sedition and that a noose awaited him outside the courthouse. and everybody clapped. At the time a screenshot was taken for a news story, it had over 1,000 likes. On January 20th, the daughter of the late Iranian general, the terrorist Qasem Soleimani, who was killed in a U.S. missile strike ordered by President Trump, tweeted a threat that Trump will live in fear of foes indefinitely. Screenshot taken within 24 hours showed nearly 5,000 likes and 2,000 people tweeting about it. On January 21st, a New York Times contributor tweeted that if Biden really wanted unity, he'd lynch Mike Pence. There you go. Okay. This type of content on Twitter is not new. On election night in 2020, Kathy Griffin reposted a Twitter of her a picture of her holding a fake bloodied head of then President Trump. The tweet received more than 58,000 likes in less than 48 hours, with Twitter only flagging the tweet as potentially sensitive content. What is more, the hashtags Assassinate Trump and Kill Trump have been allowed on Twitter since 2016. And the former CEO of Twitter tweeted that me first capitalists who think you can separate society from business are going to be the first people lined up against the wall and shot in the revolution. I'll happily provide video commentary. Okay, that's from the former CEO of Twitter, not from Jack. That's Dick Costolo. Additionally, recently a lawsuit was filed against Twitter alleging that it, quote, hold on. I think I'm done sneezing, maybe. Okay. Alleging that it refused to take down widely shared pornographic images and videos of a teenage sex trafficking victim because its investigation, quote, didn't find a violation of the company's policies. Oh yeah, that case. After multiple complaints were filed with Twitter and after the material had racked up over 167,000 views and 2,223 retweets, Twitter responded that we've reviewed the content and didn't find a violation of our policies, so no action will be taken at this time. It took a federal agent from the Department of Homeland Security to remove the material from Twitter. Further, as is well documented, some groups use Twitter to threaten or harass media members. Here's how Antifa uses Twitter to threaten me and the media. Yet these egregious violations of Amazon Web Services terms of service by Twitter have apparently been ignored by Amazon. Amazon has agreed to host Twitter on its cloud services at the same time as it has shut down Parler. Amazon itself also hosts significant amounts of content that incite violence, particularly on its online store. For example, Amazon allowed people on its site to buy a t-shirt that states "Kill all Republicans," a listing that was even sponsored by Amazon. Or one could have bought on Amazon a t-shirt with a graphic image of, hold on. Okay, my apologies. Sorry about that. Or one could have bought on Amazon a t-shirt with a graphic image of former President Trump blowing his brains out. Likewise, Amazon long sold anti-Trump paraphernalia with the message, "Where's Lee Harvey Oswald now that we really need him?" As Newsweek has pointed out, the neo-Nazi shorts worn by Proud Boys supporters are sold on Amazon. At one time, Amazon allowed shoppers to purchase Auschwitz-themed towels, bottle openers, or Christmas ornaments. Christmas ornaments? Similarly, Amazon shoppers could buy Nazi propaganda such as an anti-Semitic children's book written by a member of the Nazi Party later executed for his crimes against humanity, or Hitler's Mein Kampf. In fact, so common is such material on Amazon that it has been condemned by the Council on American Islamic Relations for selling white supremacist material. Amazon defended selling such materials based on concerns about censorship. And crime rings have used Amazon to sell stolen goods. The material being sold on Amazon that promotes violence is legion. And while Amazon sometimes pulls some of this material, it is still up for some time, often until someone outside of Amazon brings it to Amazon's attention, causing the Auschwitz Memorial Museum to comment that, quote, "It appears people are taking upon themselves a job that Amazon should be doing, verifying the products that are uploaded there." Thus, for Amazon to accuse Parler of failing to police violence-inciting material is worse than the pot calling the kettle black. It's the pot calling the kettle the N-word. Whoa! Just kidding, that line isn't in there. It says it is transparent subterfuge. I like mine better. I think my line was way better. I want to point out something here. They're bringing up all this stuff. Let's be very, very clear. Everything that they're talking about that Amazon has been doing should all be fine. All of it should be fine. Yes, you should be able to sell Auschwitz cookies or whatever you want to. Like, don't buy them. Don't buy them. Of course, you should be able to sell whatever. Like, you should be able to put that stuff up. You should be able to have a Kill All Republican shirt. You should be able to say, "I'll buy the bullet for Lee Harvey Oswald." You should be able to, buy little exploding Trump M80s, whatever you want. Of course, you should be able to do that. But Amazon has positioned itself as the arbiter of what can and can't be said on Parler. Parler's pointing out the hypocrisy here. Can they file an amended complaint with your line? They can. I don't think they will. Nor is Facebook immune. It knew it had problems with violent content on forums for like-minded users called groups. Last August, Facebook data scientists warned the company's executives that calls to violence were filling the majority of their platform's top civic groups. These groups are generally dedicated to politics and related issues and collectively reach hundreds of millions of users. For example, enthusiastic calls for violence every day filled one 58,000-member group. And in the weeks after the election, many large groups, including some named in the August presentation, questioned the results of the vote, organized protests about the results, and helped precipitate the protests that preceded the January 6th riot. In fact, in a review of the charging documents of the 223 individuals under investigation by the Department of Justice for the January 6th riot, it was disclosed that 73 of those documents reference Facebook, far more references than any other social networks, with Google-owned YouTube the second most reference on 24, and Instagram, a Facebook-owned company, was next on 20 charging documents. Let's see. The data does strongly indicate Facebook was the rioters' preferred platform, and Facebook has known its content moderation efforts were grossly inadequate for some time. Of course it was. Facebook is for boomers. Facebook's abject failure to police such content was confirmed in a 2020 survey by the Anti-Defamation League, which discovered that of people who had suffered online hate and harassment, 77% reported that at least some of their harassment occurred on Facebook, 27% reported experience harassment or hate on Twitter, 18% on Google-owned YouTube, and 17% on Facebook-owned Instagram. Parler was not listed on the survey results. Because of these findings, the Anti-Defamation League gave Facebook a D grade for its policies enforcement, Twitter a C, and Google-owned YouTube a C. Given problems with violent content on Amazon, Facebook, Google, Twitter, and other websites and apps, it is simply not accurate to suggest that Parler had or has a disproportionately large problem with such content. Nor can Amazon's explanations for taking down Parler hold water. The stated reasons were pretextual, designed to conceal Amazon's true motives for canceling Parler, which were to crush an economic competitor of both itself and a major client. Now, all this stuff about Facebook, all the Facebook information is true, but it barely helps Parler at all here because Amazon doesn't host Facebook content as far as we know. That's not discussed in the facts here. So they're just pointing out that Parler is not the only place that has a violence problem, but it's not really relevant to this lawsuit. Twitter is. Okay. Parler so now we've got the Amazon Parler relationship before January 8th. Parler contracted with Amazon to provide the cloud computing services Parler needs for its apps and websites to function on the internet. Further, both the apps and the website were written to work with Amazon's technology. Switching to a different service provider would require extensive work to migrate Parler's platform, meaning Parler would be offline for a financially devastating period. And Amazon knew this. What is more, Amazon sought this dependent relationship. It did so in part by repeatedly trying to sell Parler more services that would magnify Parler's dependency on Amazon, making it hard to ever leave for another cloud service provider. In industry parlance, this is called vendor lock. This is something that I learned very well at Wells Fargo. They call it going for great, GR8, which meant to have every customer have at least 8 products of Wells Fargo: a checking account, a savings account, online banking, a debit card, a credit card, a home equity loan, and a personal line of credit. You know, those are all products. And what they found was through their research, once people had 8 products with Wells Fargo, they were very unlikely to leave simply because it was inconvenient to transfer all of those products somewhere else. What is more, Amazon sought the dependent relationship. Oh, yeah. I read that one. From the very beginning of the contractual relationship between Amazon and Parler, Amazon knew about Parler's reactive methods for culling problematic content, as well as Parler's community guidelines. Not once before January 9th did Amazon express any concern that Parler's policies and methods violated either the Amazon Acceptable Use Policy or the Amazon Customer Agreement. To the contrary, Amazon actively led Parler to believe that Amazon considered Parler's policies and methods appropriate and consistent with Amazon's customer agreement. Up until January 8th, moreover, the relationship between Parler and Amazon was a good one, with every indication it would continue into 2021 and beyond. For example, in September 2020, Amazon sent Parler an email offering to finance Parler as part of Amazon's funding program for startups with high potential. On November 10th, at Amazon's invitation, Parler's CEO met with Amazon representatives to explore the possibility of Parler's long-term engagement using Amazon services, more vendor lock, including a move to Amazon's proprietary database. This would require a great deal of investment and trust on Parler's behalf, as it would have to specifically design portions of its software to work only with Amazon-specific products. At that time, Amazon knew there was a possibility that then-President Trump might obtain a Parler account, likely bringing with him a surge of followers to the Parler platform. What is more, around that time, Parler had informed Amazon that Parler's initial tests to use AI to pre-screen inappropriate content, including material that encouraged or incited violence, were returning promising results. In mid-December 2020, an Amazon representative spoke with Parler representatives seeking to sell additional proprietary Amazon services on which Parler might rely for its core functionality. All these offers were done with full knowledge of Parler's existing system for dealing with problematic content, something every social media platform has to deal with. Also, Amazon admitted to Parler in an email on December 16th, 2020, birthday, from an Amazon technical account manager to Parler's chief technical officer, that the Amazon manager used to receive more than a dozen reports per day for another customer, and that Twitter is moving their timeline workload into Amazon, which I can imagine will mean more abuse for Twitter, too. The Amazon manager further stated that as far as any abuse reports regarding Parler were concerned, he was definitely in this journey with you. So amazing here. Remember what Amazon told the federal court? Oh, we don't service Twitter at all, so we can't do anything about it. Here they are having discussions with Amazon about Twitter's service that's coming. They lied in federal court. That blew me away. That blew me away. Also, Amazon Web Services admitted to Parler in an email on December 16th from an Amazon technical account manager to Parler's chief technical officer that the Amazon manager used to receive more than a dozen reports per day for another. Oh, wait. Did I just read that? I did. Sorry. To be sure, Amazon had from time to time sent Parler problematic content, which content Parler immediately investigated and resolved. The last such communication before January 6th was on December 19th. As usual, Parler promptly looked into the flag content, removing anything that might have been problematic. In addition, after that December 19th communication, Parler took additional steps to facilitate any internally escalating problematic material, and Parler continued testing a new AI-based system that would screen problematic content before it was posted, with plans to deploy the system in early 2021. On January 6, 2021, Amazon forwarded to Parler a generic complaint about problematic content, but without any particular examples. That same day, Parler's chief technology officer responded informing Amazon that Parler had been dealing appropriately with this content, including cooperating with law enforcement, and offered to get on a call to discuss the measures Parler was taking. Typo. Well, worst lawyer ever. Throw the lawsuit out. The next day, January 7th, Amazon responded via email that the previous email was just for Parler's information and to consider the matter resolved. Why wasn't any of this in the initial lawsuit? Thus, before January 8th, Parler had no communication to the effect that Amazon considered Parler to have an ongoing problem, that Parler's current and future plans for content moderation were deficient, or that Parler was violating the user agreement. In fact, Amazon had assured Parler of precisely the opposite, inducing Parler's ongoing reliance on their cloud services. Given all of this, Amazon's post hoc claims that booting Parler was a decision months in the making is false. Amazon moves to end Parler. Parler is also a competitor of Twitter's and Facebook's, as all three provide a similar platform for users to communicate with short messages, links, and pictures. Like many social media platforms, Parler's business model is not based on subscription fees. Parler is also a competitor with Amazon, Twitter, Facebook, and Google for advertising. In mid-December 2020, Amazon issued a press release announcing a new multi-year deal with Twitter. Under the deal, Amazon will provide global cloud infrastructure to deliver Twitter timelines. Twitter, moreover, will leverage Amazon Web Services' proven infrastructure and portfolio of services to support delivery of millions of daily tweets. Amazon lied. Further, this expansion onto Amazon marks the first time that Twitter is leveraging the public cloud to scale their real-time service. This deal built on the company's more than decade-long collaboration, where Amazon continues to provide Twitter with storage, compute, database, and content delivery services to support its distribution of images, video, and ad content. What is more, together, Twitter and Amazon will create an architecture that extends Twitter's on-premises infrastructure to enable them to seamlessly run and scale the real-time service globally, increase its reliability, and rapidly move new features into production around the world. Amazon lied, Parler died? Exactly. At the same time, Parler began to significantly increase its usership at the expense of Twitter and Facebook. After the election in November, the New York Times reported that millions have migrated to alternative social media and media sites like Parler. In fact, less than a week after Election Day, between November 3rd and November 8th, Parler's app experienced nearly 1 million downloads. This resulted in Parler rocketing to the #1 free app on the iOS App Store, up from number 1023 just a week earlier. Likewise, in that same week, Parler app went from 486th to 1st in the Google Play rankings. Not surprisingly, the app was the 10th most downloaded social media app in 2020 with 8.1 million new installs. Despite this increase in users, there's no evidence that Parler was used to coordinate the infamous attacks on January 6th. So I see Gwaine says, since your drink from last night tasted so much like dirt, do you think that Star Wars girl would enjoy it? You know, it's funny. Today, it tastes better. I'm drinking it right now. And if we get to 1,000 likes, I'll do a shot of it, which will make me hate it again. So my discomfort is in your capable hands. I see you watching you daily. I had no doubt about it. In 2021, this trend both continued and accelerated thanks to Twitter's and Facebook's announcements that they would permanently ban former President Trump from their platforms. As a result, Parler saw installs increase in the United States by 355%. After Twitter's announcement, conservative politicians and media figures began encouraging their followers to switch to Parler. Speculation began to mount that then President Trump would likewise move to Parler. Given the close to 90 million followers the president had on Twitter, this would be an astronomical boon to Parler and a heavy blow to Twitter. An Amazon official who had known about the possibility that Trump might join Parler became increasingly inquisitive as to whether Parler's CEO had heard whether that would occur in the wake of Facebook and Twitter banning the former president. On Thursday morning, January 7th, she asked Parler's CEO, given Trump's exclusions from those other platforms, quote, does he plan on joining Parler? On Friday morning, January 8th, she stated, quote, I see Sean Hannity said Trump has joined Parler. She then asked, is that true? Parler's CEO responded, I believe Trump has an account, but it's not verified and incognito, not certain. To which the Amazon representative responded, quote, no communication from his team? Not once did this Amazon representative raise any concerns about problematic content on Parler. So, they were a little curious about what was going to happen. And to be fair, of course they were. If Trump had announced that he would be on Parler, Amazon would have to scale up Parler's services because Parler was going to blow up even bigger than it had already been blowing up. They were excited about that. That's not necessarily a nefarious thing. They're not like, ooh, because they're trying to frame this immediately as Amazon is looking out for Twitter. But Amazon's also looking out for business opportunities with Parler. Can't believe I'm drinking water. Well, flavored water. Given the context of Parler's looming competitive threat to Twitter, as well as to Amazon, Google, and Facebook, and given the fact that Facebook and Twitter bans might not long muzzle the former president if he switched to Parler, potentially bringing tens of millions of followers with him, Amazon moved to shut down Parler. Shortly after Twitter announced it was banning then-President Trump on January 8th, Google removed Parler from its Google Play Store. A Google spokesperson falsely said that Google did so because, quote, of continued posting in the Parler app that seeks to incite ongoing violence in the U.S., which represents an ongoing and urgent public safety threat. Banning Parler from the Google Play Store was significant because the overwhelming majority of Android apps are found on that store, and the Google Play Store ban's explanation was suspect because enormous amounts of content inciting violence could be found on Facebook and Twitter, yet Google did not remove those two apps from the Play Store. The next day, January 9th, web news site, can you call BuzzFeed a news site? BuzzFeed posted an article with screenshots of a letter from Amazon to Parler, informing Parler that its service would be suspended at 11:59 Pacific on Sunday, less than 30 hours later. What is more, the article with the letter was posted not long after Parler itself received the letter in an email, which was received at 5:19 p.m., less than an hour before the BuzzFeed article went online, meaning Amazon leaked the letter to BuzzFeed around the same time as sending it to Parler. That same evening, the Associated Press reported that Parler may be the leading candidate for then-President Trump after his Twitter ban, as experts had predicted Trump might pop up on Parler. However, the AP also observed that Amazon struck a blow Sunday against the chance of Trump adopting the platform, informing Parler that it would need to look for a new web hosting service effective midnight Sunday. This termination by Amazon could not have come at a worse time for Parler, a time when the company was surging with the potential of even more explosive growth in the next few days. Worse than the timing was the result. Parler tried to find alternative companies to host it, and they repeatedly were unable to do so, because of the public defamation by Amazon. This delayed Parler's ability to get back online by over a month. That delay meant many past Parler users have had to move on to other platforms. It is no wonder, then, that competitor Twitter's CEO heartily endorsed efforts to remove Parler from the public sphere. Parler's rival social media apps that are alternative to Facebook and Twitter are experiencing record growth. When Parler was not available, both current users and prospective users turned to alternatives, including but not limited to Twitter or Facebook. And once those users have begun to use another platform, they may not switch or return to Parler after Parler was offline for over a month. By silencing Parler, moreover, Amazon silences the millions of Parler users who do not feel comfortable using Twitter or other social media apps to express their views, because, among other things, these other companies take advantage of their personal data for advertising and other revenue sources. What is more, by pulling the plug on Parler, but leaving Twitter alone, despite them posting massive amounts of troublesome content on Twitter and Amazon itself, Amazon has revealed that its expressed reasons for suspending Parler's services are but pretext. Because Amazon declared we cannot provide service to a customer that is unable to effectively identify and remove content that encourages or incites violence against others, Amazon announced the pending termination of Parler's service. But Amazon knew that its allegations against Parler were specious. If Parler were a newspaper, Amazon would try to portray the content it flagged as appearing on the front page. But as the facts above show, the minimal amount of problematic material that Amazon flagged, combined with the fact that much of it was buried and could not be easily shared, meant it was hardly noticed. Thus, if Parler was a newspaper, the problematic content was buried at the bottom right column on page D17 in small type. No one was really seeing or sharing it. Making matters worse, Amazon leaked its termination email to the press, knowing that its allegations in the email, claiming that Parler was unable to find and remove content that encouraged violence, were false. both because Amazon knew of Parler's ongoing projects to utilize AI-aided content screening and because, in the days preceding Amazon's email, Parler had removed everything Amazon had brought to its attention and more. Yet Amazon sought to defame Parler nonetheless. Because of Amazon's false claims, Parler has not only lost current and future customers, but for weeks, Parler was unable to find alternative web hosting company. In short, these false claims have made Parler a pariah and severely damaged its once booming business. It's dead. It is dead. Parler's dead. I don't know how else to say it. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. People said Parler was coming back. Yeah, they're back. They're dead. Moreover, although Amazon claims it terminated Parler because, quote, Parler was used to incite, organize, and coordinate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, that claim is a pretext that is not backed by evidence. Amazon has identified no evidence that rioters used Parler to foment or coordinate the attack at the time of its termination email, and it still has no such evidence. By contrast, there's increasing evidence that Twitter and Facebook, Parler's much larger competitors, were used to foment and coordinate the riot. For instance, Ashley Babbitt, the woman killed by law enforcement when she forced her way into the Capitol building, did have a Parler account, but it had not been used since November. Instead, she had a Twitter account that was in use the very day of the riot, January 6th. Further, the federal government has indicated that the attack was coordinated at least in part on Twitter. And as already noted, Facebook, Twitter, and Google's YouTube are at the top social media sites found in charging documents for arrested rioters, not Parler. Finally, to add injury to injury, after Amazon shut off all services to Parler, Amazon left open Route 53, a highly scalable domain name system, which directed hackers to Parler's backup data centers and caused the hackers to initiate a sizable DNS attack. In other words, Amazon essentially illuminated a large neon arrow directing attackers to Parler's backup data centers. And the hackers got the message, launching an extremely large attack, one 250 times larger and 12 to 24 times longer than the average DDoS attack. Later, Amazon would terminate the Route 53 link, but the damage was already done. And this Amazon Web Service facilitated attack was a threat by Amazon to all future data centers that, if they were to host Parler, they too would be attacked by unprecedented hacks. Finally, since termination, Amazon has been secretly selling Parler's user data, including images and video, to whomever has an Amazon S3 account and is willing to pay to download the data, thus intentionally interfering with Parler's contracts with its current users. Amazon is sharing Parler user data in violation of Amazon's own contract with Parler and profiting to boot. This is direct evidence of tortious interference with Parler's contracts with its current Parler users. This Amazon-enabled black market for Parler user data also enables others to access this data and then engage in mass doxing and harassment of Parler users. These Amazon-enabled activities will hamper Parler's ability to get new users and cause it to lose existing users who will be wary of Parler's ability to protect their privacy. Those last two paragraphs are devastatingly scary. Oh, hey, we passed 1,000 likes. Let's put this shot down. There we go. Way better than yesterday. I don't know what was going on yesterday. All right. Cause of action. Pre-termination and termination conduct. Count 1. Washington Consumer Protection Act. I believe I brought this stuff up, that Washington had, unfair business practice laws that would probably be sufficient. I know I brought that up on phone calls with people. I think I brought it up online too. Count 4 is one that I definitely brought up, but we'll get there in a minute. Before the termination, in connection with the termination, Amazon engaged in deceptive and unfair trade practices, injuring Parler. The Washington Consumer Protection Act provides that unfair, deceptive acts or practices in the conduct of any trade or commerce are unlawful. Oh, hey, here's some info on the attack. The hackers launched a DDoS attack of 250 gigabytes per second for 12 hours. The average DDoS attack is only 1 gigabyte per second and lasts for 30 to 60 minutes. So that's a little bit more info about that DDoS. Under the Act, any person who is injured in his or her business or property by a violation of the Act may bring a civil suit for injunctive relief, damages, attorney's fees and costs, and treble damages. And to prevail in such a claim, the plaintiff must prove an unfair, deceptive act or practice occurring in trade or commerce, affecting the public interest, injury to a person's business or property, and causation. I think they've laid out easily a prima facie case for all 5 of those. Amazon engaged in an unfair and deceptive series of acts and practices in bad faith in the course of trade and commerce that caused substantial injury to Parler. Further, Amazon's acts and practices are harmful to the public interest. Okay, there's a good statement of that. Now let's see if they line that up. The Amazon customer agreement is a contract of adhesion. I feel like I mentioned this several times, which Amazon forces each customer to accept without negotiation in order to use Amazon services. On information and belief, many of Amazon's customers are a captive audience who do not have ready access to an effective and affordable alternative to Amazon services. Amazon is fully aware that the Amazon customer agreement is a contract of adhesion, which is exemplified by the fact that the agreement itself provides that Amazon may unilaterally modify the agreement at any time, with or without notice to its customers. Quote, Amazon may modify this agreement, including any policies, at any time by posting a revised version on the Amazon site. By continuing to use the service offerings after the effective date of any modifications, you agree to be bound by the modified terms. It is your responsibility to check the Amazon site regularly for modifications to this agreement. Amazon unilaterally drafted the agreement in a manner that unfairly, deceptively, and unconscionably advantages Amazon and harms its customers. By way of example only, Amazon knows that customers will use Amazon services to provide a platform for third-party end users to post content. Amazon is aware that it is not possible to completely prevent those third-party end users from posting objectionable content that violates its policies. Oh my, I've got the vapors? This is exactly what I was saying. Exactly what I was saying about the contract. Nevertheless, Amazon contends that a customer breaches this contract of adhesion if any third-party end user does post such objectionable content, irrespective of whether the customer has adopted or is working to adopt appropriate measures to block or remove such content. In effect, by Amazon's own interpretation, which interpretation Parler disputes, Amazon has knowingly drafted its contract of adhesion in a manner that will force its customers to breach the contract en masse. I think I was on stream with Kurt, and we were talking about this, and I brought up the fact that it's an illusory promise because it's impossible. You can't actually do it. You can't do what Amazon is saying, and they know you can't do it. In turn, Amazon contends that it has the right to terminate the contract for cause in the event of such a breach, with no notice to and no meaningful remedies for any of its customers. Amazon has done so despite having full knowledge that its customers rely upon the continuation of services for the very survival of their business. When Amazon and Parler entered into the Amazon customer agreement for cloud computing services that Parler needs for its apps and websites to function on the internet, Amazon knew that it would be impossible to ensure that no end user would ever post objectionable content on Parler's platform. Indeed, it would be technologically impossible for any microblogging platform to completely prevent the posting of objectionable content by end users. Rather, at best, a microblogging platform like Parler has the capacity to remediate such content after it had been posted by an end user and becomes known. By definition, Amazon was aware of and implicitly accepted these technological limitations throughout the time when it entered into and performed its contract with Parler. Again, they should have posted something on Amazon review, on an Amazon review of some obscure product or whatever that had some sort of thing that breached the terms of service, taken a screenshot of it and included it in the lawsuit. In my opinion, not even Amazon can prevent these things from happening on its own site. Parler performed under the contract in good faith by, among other things, paying for Amazon's services. Amazon repeatedly made representations to Parler which were designed to and did give Parler the assurance that Amazon did not view the posting of allegedly objectionable user content on Parler's platform as a breach of the party's contract, especially in light of Parler's efforts to remediate such content. By way of example only, on January 7th, Amazon assured Parler that a prior complaint regarding objectionable content had been resolved. At the same time, Amazon solicited additional business from Parler. Parler worked with Amazon to expand the scope of the products and services that it purchased from Amazon, based in part on the assurances it received. Further, during that same time period, Parler was in talks with Amazon to acquire new AI from Amazon to perform superior content moderation on its platform. Amazon was fully aware that Parler was working with Amazon's assistance to adopt the best automated practices available on the market to prevent and remove objectionable content from its own platform. On January 7th and 8th, Amazon learned that former President Donald Trump and other known conservatives, including Sean Hannity, a great American, had switched or were likely to switch from Twitter to Parler. Amazon was clearly concerned about the possibility and sent inquiries regarding these concerns to representatives of Parler. On Sunday, January 9th, Amazon notified Parler via email that Amazon was immediately suspending Parler's account. In reality, the so-called suspension was a termination, as Amazon made clear over the phone and in the same email that Parler would need to migrate its data to new servers. In Amazon's email purporting to suspend and or terminate the contract, Amazon identified its purported reasons for this termination. Specifically, Amazon asserted that Parler did not have an adequate plan to identify and remove dangerous content from its platform because Parler's only plan was to do so manually with volunteers. Amazon was aware that this purported basis for suspending and or terminating the contract was untrue. Amazon previously had given Parler explicit and or implicit assurances that its concerns about objectionable content on Parler would not result in termination of the contract. Further, Amazon knew that Parler was in the midst of acquiring AI from Amazon that Parler could use to identify and remove dangerous content from its platform, directly contrary to Amazon's claim that Parler intended to perform this function manually with volunteers. All right. Sorry, we needed more corpse bog drink. The true reason why Amazon decided to suspend and or terminate its contract with Parler was not because of any alleged breach of the contract, but because Amazon did not want Parler to be able to provide a new platform to conservative voices, including Donald Trump, or to compete effectively with other microblogging platforms such as Twitter. On the same day that Amazon terminated its contract with Parler, it also publicized false information about Parler to the media. Specifically, on January 9th, Amazon announced it would indefinitely suspend Parler's service, falsely claiming that Parler was unable or unwilling to remove content that encourages or incites violence against others. That's an interesting play there. That is a false statement. It's a false statement of fact. They can demonstrate a willingness to do so, I would think, based on their communications and their... Now, it says in this lawsuit is slightly different from the federal lawsuit. In the federal lawsuit, it looked like they were saying they were not going to buy Amazon's AI because they were implementing their own. In this lawsuit, it says they were going to acquire Amazon's AI. Angry Baneling, no, it's way better than Fireball. It's not a bad whiskey. Yesterday it tasted worse than this, and sometimes whiskeys do need a little bit of air to come in and breathe. But I said yesterday, and I stand by this, it's not worth $110 a bottle. I would rather buy a Lafroig, a Talisker, or a Lagavulin than this. Okay, here we go. Amazon's series of acts and practices was deceptive and unfair. Amazon uniformly requires its customers to enter into a contract of adhesion containing unfair and unconscionable terms that benefit Amazon and harm its customers. Amazon entered into a contract with Parler, knowing and accepting that it would be impossible for Parler, like Amazon's other customers, to completely prevent the posting of objectionable content on its platform. During the performance of the contract, Amazon was aware of the methods Parler was using and developing to remediate such content and induced Parler to continue to pay for and even expand its business relationship with Amazon through assurances that Parler's content moderation methods were adequate. Nevertheless, Amazon subsequently terminated its contract with Parler based on a characterization of Parler's content moderation methods, which Amazon knew to be false. Amazon published the same false characterizations of Parler to the media. Amazon's unfair and deceptive acts and practices impact the public interest. Amazon not only made deceptive statements to Parler directly, but also made deceptive statements about Parler to the public at large. Amazon's decision to terminate Parler's contract was motivated at least in part by, and in fact furthered, Amazon's goal of eliminating a platform for a large segment of the political spectrum in the United States. Further, upon information and belief, Amazon provides the same services through the same contract of adhesion to many other customers who are likewise unable to fully prevent the posting of objectionable content on their platform. Upon information and belief, many of these customers rely on their contracts of adhesion with Amazon for the survival of their businesses, and they are at risk of having their contracts terminated for cause and their businesses severely injured by Amazon at any time. Amazon's unfair and deceptive acts and practices have resulted in substantial damages to Parler, including but not limited to the loss of millions of dollars of revenue from advertisements. Very nice. Very nice. Count 2, defamation. Defamation is going to be a hard case. Parler is clearly a public figure. By leaking false allegations to the press, Amazon defamed Parler, damaging its reputation and ability to attract future service providers, users, and advertisers. Under Washington law, the required elements for a defamation claim are falsity, an unprivileged communication, fault, and damages. On January 9th, Amazon sent an email to Parler declaring that Amazon would indefinitely suspend Parler's service, claiming that Parler was unable or unwilling to remove content that encourages or incites violence against others. Amazon, or one of its employees, publicly leaked that email in bad faith to BuzzFeed at or around the same time that Amazon sent the email to Parler. Okay, so let's look at the statement. They were unable or unwilling to remove content that encourages or incites violence against others. Is that a true statement? I don't think so. I mean, they're clearly able to. They were doing it. They seem to be willing to. They were actually, pursuing AI technology that would help prevent it and would remove it. They clearly had a team and a process in place for removing it. So it sounds like those are statements of fact. We can objectively look at them and determine whether they're true or not. Willingness is a little squishy, but ability, unable to remove. I mean, that's not true. They clearly are able to. But I don't think in this context, willingness is actually subjective. I mean, if they're in open talk to adopt Amazon's service, their AI service for moderation, then that seems like they were willing. Amazon's email was false and Amazon knew it was false. Real quickly, it's not an unprivileged communication. There's nothing privileged about sending an email to a news story. That's not privileged. Parler was willing and able to remove such content, and Amazon knew that because there was a lengthy history between the parties of Parler removing such content as quickly as Amazon brought it to Parler's attention. What is more, Amazon was well aware that Parler was testing a new AI-based system to remove such content before it was even posted. That Parler had success with initial testing of the program and that Parler had in fact shared those testing results with Amazon. The Amazon email received wide play in the media. Cringelord says, since always online service video games always use arbitrary escape clauses, contracts of adhesion, could they be considered unreasonable because they could take away any amount of digital good, even if it amounts to thousands of dollars? To my knowledge, courts haven't really checked this out, but I would think that with the growing amount of digital property it's becoming more and more mainstream, that yes, we will see a level of unconscionability with removing people, summarily removing people from access to their digital property. Again, none of this stuff would be allowed in the real world. We just have to get courts to take that up. Yeah, the EULA always says you own nothing. It does. But at some point, like, there was an article I read years ago. It was like the most expensive pieces of digital property ever sold. And there's some virtual world where someone bought like a moon or something for literally millions of dollars. And it's like, that's real. That's real at that point. That's a real thing. You can't tell me that someone spends some millions of dollars on something that's fake. And so if you have a clause that allows you to just automatically remove someone's access to thousands to millions of dollars, yeah, I don't think so. Entropia universe. Okay. The Amazon Web Service email was not a privileged communication, as it did not involve communications between an attorney and client, a doctor and patient, spouses, or any of the recognized privileges under Washington law. To establish fault, as some other privileges might be, for example, if someone were to use Amazon's reporting function, like to report offensive content to Amazon, that would probably be a privileged communication. I want to point that out, that's a privileged communication. A bar complaint against an attorney is a privileged communication. These things are privileged. So there are more than just those recognized privileges out there. A privileged communication is one where a communication is invited. If BuzzFeed had invited Amazon, like if BuzzFeed had called up Amazon and said, hey, tell me about Parler, what's your opinion of them? And Amazon gave an opinion that was solicited by BuzzFeed, that might actually stumble into the privileged communication aspect. Haven't read particularly on Washington law on that, but in some states that would be considered privileged if it was requested by the person who would hear the message. Okay, to establish fault as a private figure, a plaintiff must prove negligence by a preponderance of the evidence. This means that the plaintiff must show fault by the publisher in not acting reasonably to ensure the report is accurate and complete. Additionally, to show fault concerning a subject of general or public interest, a private figure must show that in publishing the statement, the defendant knew or, in the exercise of reasonable care, should have known that the statement was false or would create a false impression in some material aspect. But these are not private figures. They're not private at all. They're public. Moreover, a public figure plaintiff must prove by clear and convincing evidence that the defendant uttered the offensive statement with actual malice, that is, with knowledge of falsity or reckless disregard of the truth or falsity of the statement. I want to point out that Washington State, where the suit is, has a very weak anti-SLAPP law. Their anti-SLAPP law was struck down in 2015 for being unconstitutional, as it deprived people the right of a jury trial. There's a shell of an anti-SLAPP law remaining that basically means that a government can't stop your speech with a lawsuit. That's about it. It would likely not apply in this case. So if you're curious about the anti-SLAPP laws in Washington State, they likely do not apply in this case at all, which is probably a reason this is in Washington State. Parler is not a public figure Of course, Parler's a public figure. Of course, Parler's a public figure. Parler is talking about having millions of subscribers and being directly instrumental or directly of public concern during the Capitol riots. Parler's a public figure. Of course it is. And the success of its content moderation policies was not a matter of public concern until Google and Amazon decided to make it one. That may be true, but I think overall Parler's a public figure. But the defendant cannot by a defamatory statement, turn a private matter into a public one, or all matters would be public in nature. Amazon did not take reasonable care to investigate and ensure that its statements were accurate and complete, thus acting negligently. I mean, they went through a whole thing talking about how they're the most popular app on the App Store. I think Parler's probably a public figure for these purposes. Let's see. If Amazon did not take reasonable care to investigate and ensure that its statements were accurate and complete, thus acting negligently, but even if Parler is considered a public figure or Parler's content moderation process was deemed to be of public interest, Amazon acted with actual malice. I agree. Actual malice exists where there is knowledge of the falsity or reckless disregard of the truth or falsity of the statement. Reckless disregard requires evidence that the publisher was plagued with serious doubts as to the truth of the statement. Amazon is chargeable with the knowledge possessed by its agents or employees. On January 10th and 11th, Amazon published and released statements to news media repeating its assertion that Parler had been unwilling or unable to remove content that encourages and incites violence against others. But on January 8th, when Amazon brought to Parler's attention 75 posts and comments that allegedly encouraged or incited violence, Parler promptly deleted all 75 of them, and agents or employees of Amazon were aware of that fact. Parler, in other words, was both willing and able to remove any problematic content. Moreover, on January 9th, when Amazon brought to Parler's attention another 33 posts and comments that allegedly encouraged or incited violence, Parler promptly deleted all 33 of them, and agents or employees of Amazon were aware of that fact. Here again, Amazon was aware that Parler was both willing and able to remove the content. Indeed, as of the night of January 10th, when Amazon terminated service to Parler, Parler had promptly identified and deleted all the posts brought to its attention by Amazon, and agents or employees of Amazon were aware of that fact. In addition, Amazon agents or employees were aware as of January 9th that Parler had successful initial test results with its own AI content moderation program designed to identify and remove such content before it was even posted. Thus, Amazon's statements made on January 10th and 11th that Parler had been unwilling or unable to remove such content were not only false at the time Amazon published those statements. Amazon knew they were false or had a high degree of awareness of their probable falsity. Thus, Amazon acted with actual malice. Amazon's defamatory conduct did not relate to or arise out of its contract with Parler, nor any of its services or products. Because of Amazon's malicious defamatory statements, Parler's public reputation suffered severe damage, and Parler had had many potential service providers refuse to work with it, hampering and delaying its ability to get back online. In addition, Parler employees have been targeted with threats, and the number of lost users and advertisement revenues stemming from Parler's inability to find someone to quickly host it can be counted in the millions. The service of this complaint, together with the summons, satisfies the requirements of the Uniform Correction or Clarification of Defamation Act without the need for a prior request for correction because, quote, it specifies with particularity the statement alleged to be false and defamatory or otherwise actionable, and to the extent known the time and place of publication, and it alleges the defamatory meaning of the statement. Amazon's defamatory leak to the media were extraneous to the Amazon customer agreement, did not arise from the contract. Rather, they were purely malicious actions taken by Amazon outside the course of performance of the contract. Parler is entitled to actual and exemplary damages, including but not limited to damages for reputational harm and lost profits. Woo! That was a big section. Very important. N. Martin. Yes, I should do that. In fact, when I wrote my appeal to YouTube, I sent them 7 different links to CPAC videos of Trump. His full speech. 7 of them. From major media sources, none of them were taken down. Count 3, breach of contract. All right, we're trucking along here. We're halfway through the document. We may not get through it tonight, y'all. We'll see. Amazon breached its contract with Parler by terminating it without sufficient cause under the contract and by not providing 30 days notice. So they're going to run up here against the same problems that they had in the prior lawsuit. They have a 30-day notice, but they also have a way to completely avoid the 30-day notice. Parler entered into a contract with Amazon known as a customer agreement. Amazon repudiated and breached the customer agreement in bad faith and thereby caused damage to Parler. Under Washington law, a breach of contract is actionable only if the contract imposes a duty, the duty is breached, and the breach proximately causes damages to the claimant. Notice what they're doing here. Real quick, this is such... Now, they've had time to draft this. Their first complaint in federal court was drafted very quickly and put out. Notice what they've done. They're very, very thorough in drafting these arguments. So they say, okay, we're going to talk about breach. Here's the rule on breach in Washington. There was no rule about breach. There was no rule on defamation. There was no rule on anything in the prior complaint. It was very poorly and hastily drafted. It was thrown together. It was a mess. This is much more concise. The narrative flow was better in the facts section, but most importantly, here in the actual count sections, they're very, very crystal clear about what the rule is and about how the rule was broken by the facts in this case. Intro, we're going to tell you what happened. Rule, we're going to tell you what the rule is. Analysis, we're going to apply the facts that we have to the rule. And then the conclusion. They're doing this over and over. It's a much better document. Excuse me, I'm trying not to yawn. It's a much better document this time around. And again, I chalk that up to them having time to write it. Each of those elements is satisfied here. So again, a breach of contract is only actionable if the contract imposes a duty, duty is breached, and the breach proximately causes damage to the claimant. As to duty, the Amazon Web Service customer agreement with Parler allows either party to terminate the agreement for cause if the other party is in material breach of this agreement and the material breach remains uncured for a period of 30 days from receipt of notice by the other party. Thus, the contract imposes a duty of a 30-day notice before for-cause termination based on an uncured material breach. This 30-day notice and opportunity to cure is absolutely critical to a big social media platform like Parler. Immediate termination, going dark, is unbelievably damaging. Getting 30 days either to cure or to find another host is absolutely essential to avoid millions of dollars in damages and potential irreparable harm. Parler would not have signed up with Amazon without that protection, nor would any reasonable social media platform sign up with Amazon without that protection. It was therefore reasonable for Parler to believe that that protection meant something. From November 17th through January 6th, Amazon periodically sent Parler problematic material Amazon had found on Parler's website. Parler always quickly removed that material. On January 7th, Amazon informed Parler that all issues with such material were resolved and everything was okay. So they're establishing that at this time, there was no breach. On January 8th, Amazon brought concerns to Parler about user content that encouraged violence. That same day, Parler addressed those concerns. On January 9th, 2021, Amazon brought more bad content to Parler, and Parler took down all of that content by the evening. When Parler asked Amazon how it had found this material, Amazon refused to say. Amazon had taken a screenshot of one of the problematic post comments just 9 seconds after it was put on Parler. Parler alleges on information and belief that the post comment, and perhaps others, were orchestrated by Amazon in order to create the false impression that Parler was failing to police user content from material that violated Amazon's use policy. Whoa! Whoa! 9 seconds. as of the end of January 9th, Parler had not breached the agreement and certainly had not committed any uncured material breach of the agreement for 30 days as required for termination. Parler had performed in a manner consistent with the terms of the contract and the parties' course of dealing. Further, Parler had appropriately remediated problematic content to the satisfaction of Amazon. There was no cause for Amazon to suspend or terminate its Amazon customer agreement with Parler. Yet, late on January 9th, Amazon informed Parler via email that Amazon would suspend Parler's account effective Sunday, January 10th at 11:59 p.m. That so-called suspension was in fact a termination. First, the very email announcing the suspension declared that Amazon will ensure that all your data is preserved for you to migrate to your own servers and will work with you as best we can to help your migration. Thus, the email makes clear that although Amazon was still preserving Parler's data, it was not doing so to effectuate a future return to Amazon. Instead, Amazon was looking to give Parler its data so Parler could find some other way to get back online. That is not a suspension, but a termination within the meaning of the customer agreement. Further, Amazon communicated to Parler over the phone that this was effectively a termination rather than a suspension. Parler even offered to adopt Amazon Web Services' own AI-based content moderation, but Amazon refused. As there was nothing Parler could do to satisfy Amazon, Amazon cannot rely on that portion of the contract that allows for a temporary suspension. This should have been put up in the previous section, in my opinion. In the defamation section. Because I think this shows a further willingness to moderate the content acceptably. The contract does not allow for permanent suspensions, and a permanent suspension is in law, in fact, a termination. Amazon thus breached its duty to Parler when it terminated service on January 10th without 30 days' notice or an opportunity to cure. Nor can Amazon elide its contractual duty to provide a 30-day notice by pointing to other provisions of the contract. Specifically, 7.2b2 allows Amazon to immediately provide notice of termination for any reason for which it could temporarily suspend under Section 6. And Section 6 allows Amazon to suspend Parler's service if Parler breaches the contract. Thus, Amazon's logic goes, the contract as a whole provides Amazon the right to either immediately suspend or to terminate in the event that Parler or one of its users is in breach. Amazon's interpretation of the contract misses the point because Parler was not in breach of the contract. So Amazon was not entitled to suspend, terminate, or otherwise repudiate the contract either under Section 6 or 7 of the customer agreement. Moreover, Amazon's reading overlooks 4 crucial doctrines which strongly support Parler's reading of the contract. Ooh, this should be good. We're getting some deep law here. This law goes deep. First, the contract at issue is a form of contract drafted by Amazon that Parler had no ability to negotiate. Exactly what I said. Exactly what I was saying. You have to highlight that this contract is absolutely unfair as an adhesion contract combined with their ability to provide an illusory promise. This is exactly what I was saying. Great job. Washington courts generally construe ambiguities against the contract's drafter. Thus, the customer agreement must be construed against Amazon when there are any doubts as to its meaning. I'm not saying, by the way, that I'm special in any way on this or that they even heard me. This is just something that was missing from the other complaint that any contract litigator should have caught, should have been there. But again, I think they just didn't have any time on that other complaint to flesh this stuff out. And Amazon's reading of the temporary suspension clause is doubtful, to say the least. Second, under Washington law. Now, this I don't know. I don't know the specifics of Washington law here. The parties' course of dealing, defined as a sequence of prior conduct between the parties that establishes a common basis for interpreting other conduct and expression, is used by courts to interpret contract provisions and when there is no conflict with express terms. Okay, so this is stating that their prior interaction over these things will frame the arrangement, because you get into a habit of doing business someone, yada, yada, yada. Oh, come on. You ship me the stuff, I pay you on time. Okay. Doesn't conflict with the terms of the contract, but there's a little flexibility in how those terms work out, and you work out an operating business arrangement. And the other party never has a problem with it. They never have a problem with it. You're working on stuff. that becomes the agreement because you come to rely on that agreement. That's the idea here. Amazon seems to argue that Parler was in breach of the contract in two ways. First, Parler was required to ensure that Parler's users posted content that was not violent or harmful to others. Second, Amazon argues that Parler must immediately suspend access to content that violates the contract. But the word ensure is ambiguous as to what methods of content moderation would constitute a violation of that term. And the word immediately applies to suspension of offending end users and does not impose a time frame on the removal of offending content itself. As to ensure, under Amazon's reading, the instant such content is posted, Parler would have failed to ensure it won't be, and thus would violate the contract. But that reading would be unreasonable for any content moderation system since none perfectly prevent problematic material, let alone for a reactive model which AWS, from the very outset, knew that Parler employed. If that were not enough, the course of dealing between these parties showed that Amazon's current interpretation of ensure was never employed until now as a post hoc justification for termination. Not until January 9th, after a consistent pattern of Amazon occasionally flagging small amounts of content as problematic under its interpretation of its standards and Parler quickly responding, did Amazon claim Parler was in breach of its contract merely because such content had been posted on Parler at all. Amazon knew from the beginning of its contractual relationship that Parler used a reactive and non-instantaneous system to find and remove problematic content. Yet, not once did Amazon say that Parler's reactive system was a per se violation of the contract. Woo! As to the immediately suspend language, as noted above, Amazon's misplaced reliance on a provision governing the potential suspension of end users' accounts, Section 4.5, cannot reasonably support a reading in which the term immediately provides a time frame in which Parler was to remove offending posts for a provision governing your content. And even if the term immediately could reasonably be read to impose a time limitation on Parler's removal of offending content, which it cannot, the term is nevertheless vague as to how such a time frame should be measured. How long is immediately in the context of an organizational response? A millisecond? A minute? 24 hours? And for processes that take a non-zero amount of time, is an immediate response measured from its initiation, its conclusion, or something else? Look at this. They're lawyering over the definition of immediate. That's amazing. This is great. What is the definition of immediate? Can you define it? I would say immediate means now. But what is now? By the time I've said now, it's already not immediate. So they're going over they're arguing that immediate is a vague term. And immediate seems like a non-vague term at first blush. This is good lawyering. I like this. I like this. Parler was always quickly responsive when it found problematic content and whenever Amazon brought such content to Parler's attention. And that responsiveness has never led Amazon to declare that Parler was in breach of its contract until January 9th, 2021. The ambiguous terms in the contract must be construed in light of the parties' course of dealing, and those dealings show that Amazon's reading is wrong and that Parler was not in violation of the contract. Third, under Amazon's reading, Section 7.2b2 would render Section 7.2b1 superfluous. Yes. Thank you. Exactly what I said. By always allowing Amazon an easy escape from the 30-day notice and cure requirement. It thus becomes an illusory promise, and that is not a real thing. An illusory promise is false. After all, if Amazon is authorized to terminate the contract immediately for any breach because of Section 7.2b2, there would never be any reason to invoke Section B1, which requires 30 days notice for a material breach. Such a reading violates the surplusage canon. Wow. Which forbids an interpretation that makes a contract provision meaningless. Yes. Thank you. I didn't know the surplusage canon from Washington here. I didn't know from the Washington Supreme Court had a name for it called the surplusage canon, but it's just a general idea that you can't have one contract term completely obviate another contract term. It doesn't make sense. Why would the other contract term be in there in any way? Fourth, the erroneous reading of the contract violates the absurdity doctrine. Absurd results are to be avoided, and internal inconsistencies in the legal document must be dealt with. Amazon's reading of the contract turns it into an at-will contract by completely reading out the 30-day notice protections, which are obviously designed to allow companies like Parler to find an alternative hosting site without disruption to its service. No reasonable customer would agree to an at-will contract that allows Amazon to terminate the contract without adequate notice and based on a single objectionable post by a user of the customer service. Such an interpretation could lead to absurd results, which we are bound to avoid when we can do so without doing violence to the words of the legal document. Thank you. Yes, of course. Of course. Long story short, bro, it's ridiculous. Bro, it's ridiculous. It's a contract with a mobster, right? It's like in Dirty Work. One of the greatest movies ever made. Dirty Work, Norm Macdonald. And Norm Macdonald is trying to raise $50,000. And he's trying to raise it to pay off Chevy Chase, who's a doctor. The doctor has said that he will put Norm Macdonald's friend's dad on the top of the heart transplant list if he gives him $50,000 cash, because he owes a bookie $50,000. Okay. At one point, Chevy Chase, I'm waiting for the YouTube to catch up. At one point, Chevy Chase shows up and he's got a broken arm, like a broken toe or whatever. And he says to Norm Macdonald and his buddy, he says, you know what I don't find fair? Let's say you owe a bookie $50,000 and they come to your house and they take you into a car and they rough you up a little bit and yell at you and they throw you out of the car and you break your arm. You still owe the $50,000. Doesn't seem fair to me. Exactly. Exactly. That is exactly right. This is the type of contract that Amazon is running. That's what they're laying out. That's not a fair result. It's pretty simple. Artie Lang. Yeah, that's right. Artie Lang is his buddy. Gosh, that movie, I can't wait till that's on Prime. It's one of the funniest movies ever made. Amazon's breach of contract has proximately caused substantial damage to Parler by depriving Parler of being online for over a month, beginning at 12:10 a.m. Pacific on January 11th. This has resulted in a loss of millions of dollars of revenue from advertisements targeted at Parler's millions of users, a number that was growing significantly each day before termination. Parler is therefore entitled to damages for Amazon's breach of contract. Here we go. This is my favorite section of the entire lawsuit. Count 4. Breach of the duty of good faith and fair dealing. If you watched my other coverage of the Parler lawsuit, hell, if you watched Viva and Barnes cover Parler's lawsuit, I sent a super chat. I sent several super chats, and then I ranted at Viva because he wasn't paying attention to me. Viva, pay attention to me when I'm super chatting you. You beautiful Canadian man who I like very much. I said, why didn't they bring up the Washington state duty of good faith and fair dealing? It's a requirement. It's required in all Washington contracts. Not every state has this. Texas does not have a duty of good faith and fair dealing in its contracts. Washington does. And it has teeth. H.E. Zodiac says, this is for the play-by-play fight video you did the other night. You had me crying with laughter. This is my first time donating, and I normally only get to watch replays. Thank you for the entertainment. Can't wait to see you on Locals. Hey, thank you, H.E. Zodiac. welcome to the donation club. You'll be given a hand job, maybe by yourself by the end of the night. Okay. Count 4, breach of the duty of good faith and fair dealing. Amazon breached the duty of good faith and fair dealing by exercising its purported discretion under the contract in bad faith. This is good. Washington law imposes on every contract an implied duty of good faith and fair dealing that obligates the parties to cooperate with each other so that each may obtain the full benefit of performance. Let me break this down for you very quickly. If you enter into a contract with someone in Washington state, you have a legal obligation to attempt to make the contract work. That's what it means. At its core, that's what good faith and fair dealing means. Work for both of you, not just for you. You have an obligation, legally binding requirement, to try to make the contract work for both of you. I know an attorney who had an arbitration up in Washington and won that arbitration based on this clause. And the long story short was a company had purchased intellectual property from another company. Okay? So company A buys intellectual property from company B. Company B has a representative go out and make a bunch of very controversial statements online, thus devaluing the property of company B after they sold it to company A. Company B's product is now not worth anything because of the statements from company B. Company B had a good faith and fair dealing requirement to preserve the value of the property that they had just licensed to company A. Of course they do. Of course they do. If you contract to sell someone a bar of gold, right? You're like, I'm going to sell you a bar of gold. And then after agreeing to sell them the bar of gold, you take their money, you then throw the gold into a volcano, you've diminished the value of the gold. They can't get it. They can't use it. You've destroyed the value of it. You had an obligation to fulfill that contract to your mutual benefit, not just to your benefit. You already got the money. You don't care what the gold looks like. Or to send the gold, in one molecule fragments, for example. Just trillions and trillions of one molecule fragments to the other person. Or in little, like you shave the gold down and put it in little vials, so it's completely useless to them. That would be destroying the value of the thing you just sold. It's the same thing with intellectual property here in this case. And that's how you summarize the duty of good faith and fair dealing. If you have a contract, you're obligated to try to make it work. So when you have a contract that says you're going to give 30 days notice, and then you don't give 30 days notice, pretty much breach that good faith and fair dealing requirement. I mentioned the duty of good faith and fair dealing in my stream with civil. Yeah, I think I mentioned it in several streams about this with uncivil. Several streams about this topic because it's really, really important. Not every state has it, and the states that do have it, not every state has teeth. I know for a fact that Washington's good faith and fair dealing provision has teeth. They really should have mentioned it. Okay. Every contract an implied duty of good faith and fair dealing that obligates the parties to cooperate with each other so that each may obtain the full benefit of performance. The duty arises when the contract gives one party discretionary authority to determine a contract term. Thus, when a party elects to terminate an agreement for cause, Washington law requires that the parties' exercise of that contractual power be made in good faith. It is the fact finder's job to determine whether a party breached its duty of good faith and fair dealing, and the duty varies somewhat with the context in which it arises. Under Washington law, the question of whether the defendant's conduct breached the duty may depend, among other things, on whether the defendant's actions were contrary to the reasonable and justified expectations of other parties to the contract, whether the defendant's conduct conformed with ordinary custom or practice in the industry, and subjective factors such as the defendant's intent and motive. As explained above under Section 7.2 of the Customer Agreement, Amazon did not have a good faith basis to terminate the party's contract. Amazon could not have effected a termination of convenience without providing 30 days notice, and Amazon could not terminate for cause on the basis of material breach without providing 30 days to cure. Because Amazon patently failed to observe either 30-day requirement, it could not purport to terminate the agreement except by claiming authorization still for cause under the suspension power of 7.2b2. However, even had that power been available to Amazon, the facts show that Amazon terminated its services to Parler for pretextual reasons and in contravention of both Parler's justified expectations and customary practice. So, even if they could have suspended it, it still violates how they were actually engaged in performance under the contract for the entire term. First, as already mentioned, Amazon entered into the customer agreement knowing that it was neither contemplated nor possible for Parler to ensure that no end user would ever post objectionable content on its platform. Indeed, it was and is technologically impossible for any microblogging platform to wholly prevent the posting of objectionable content by end users. Because Amazon entered into the contractual relationship, knowing the consenting to Parler's then existing content moderation model, and the technological impossibility of precluding any and all content violative of its acceptable use policy, Parler had a reasonable and justified expectation that Amazon would not terminate services based on either Parler's inability to wholly prevent the initial posting of violative content or on the inevitable non-zero lapse of time between posting and removal of such content, which was also consistent with the terms of the contract. Party's course of conduct further cemented this reasonable expectation. As mentioned in greater detail above, until January 8th, Amazon had repeatedly shown that it did not consider the occasional identification of objectionable content on Parler's platform as a terminable breach of the party's contract. Indeed, as late as January 7th, Amazon assured Parler that a prior complaint regarding content on Parler had been resolved. Amazon's statements to Parler made clear that it did not consider any objectionable content posted on Parler to date, nor Parler's responses to that content to date, to be a reason to suspend or terminate the party's contract. Parler relied on those statements in good faith. Further, the lingering presence of objectionable content on many other Amazon and Amazon-affiliated sites demonstrates that the more draconian measures Amazon ultimately employed against Parler were and are a significant departure from Amazon's customary practices. Woo! The pretextual nature of Amazon's purportedly long-standing concerns with Parler's content and Parler's reasonable and justified expectations against abrupt termination are also evident in the timing of the termination, coming in the midst of Amazon's extended efforts to expand its vendor relationship with Parler and Parler's own expressions of interest in Amazon's content moderation AI. Despite its sudden, feigned concern over Parler's inability to moderate violative content, at the time of termination, Amazon was fully aware that Parler was working to adopt the best automated practices available on the market to prevent and remove objectionable content from its platform, and that Parler had even offered to use Amazon's own AI system. Amazon's stated concerns were mere misdirection for Amazon's true bad faith motives for shutting Parler down. Here again, Amazon's timing is telling. On January 7th and 8th, Amazon learned that former President Donald Trump and other known conservatives, including Hannity, had switched or were likely to switch to from Twitter to Parler. Amazon was clearly concerned about that possibility and made repeated inquiries regarding those concerns to Parler mere hours later. Once it appeared that President Trump might well be joining Parler on Sunday, January 9th, Amazon notified Parler via email that Amazon was immediately suspending and effectively terminating Parler's account and all related services. By the way, what do you guys think of a law ASMR channel where all it is videos of me reading Supreme Court opinions in ASMR? That's it. You can just go to sleep to legal language. That's it. I'll get 2 microphones. So it's in one ear, then it's in the other. In Amazon's email suspending and terminating the contract, Amazon identified purported reasons for the termination. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that today. That was a joke. But it is a channel I've thought about doing, by the way. I would never do that on this channel. It would be its own thing. It'd be its own thing. Oh, the RE20, it can do ASMR. I have several different mics. We can make it happen. All right. Sorry. In Amazon's email, suspending and terminating the account, Amazon identified purported reasons for the termination. Specifically, Amazon asserted that Parler did not have an adequate plan to identify and remove dangerous content from its platform. Because Parler's only plan was to do so manually with volunteers. As shown above, this purported rationale for termination was not only an abrupt departure from the party's course of conduct, but also plainly inaccurate. Moreover, Amazon had been aware for months that Parler was in the process of overhauling its content moderation system to incorporate AI, including, potentially, AI acquired from Amazon itself. If that were not enough, Amazon's own employees had been vocal in contradicting Amazon's official narrative of why the termination occurred. The true reason why Amazon decided to suspend and or terminate its contract with Parler was not because of any alleged breach of contract, but because Amazon did not want Parler to be able to provide a new platform to conservative voices, including Donald Trump, to compete effectively with other microblogging platforms such as Twitter, or to compete with tech companies, including Amazon, for advertising revenue. Kermit ASMR, your favorite movie quote. Oh my God. Oh my God. Accordingly, Amazon breached its duty of good faith and fair dealing when it exercised its purported discretion to terminate that content on Parler's site, violated the party's contract, and to suspend and or terminate the contract on January 9th. Amazon's breach of the duty of good faith and fair dealing proximately caused substantial damage to Parler by depriving Parler of being online as of January 11th. This has resulted in the loss of millions of dollars of revenue from advertisements targeted at Parler's millions of users. And with that, we're going to finish this thing up tomorrow. We're at 41 out of 66 pages. And let's see. I think all 66 pages are actually, they're all meat. They're all meat. So we're going to finish this up tomorrow because I'm getting tired of reading through it. We're at count 5. This is a very, very well-drafted complaint right now. Very well-drafted complaint. It takes notice of the jurisdiction that it's in. It makes legal arguments that are relevant. It applies facts to law. It avoids superfluous facts for the most part. Its stuff about Facebook was a little bit too much, but it avoids superfluous facts. It doesn't get down into the, they sent us 96 different things and we dealt with them. That sort of stuff. That was too technical. They're focusing on is the law and the contract, and this is good. And they're focusing on Washington law around contracts, specifically adhesion contracts, specifically the duty of good faith and fair dealing. This is all stuff that should have been in the initial complaint. And had they properly filed the initial complaint with the proper argument behind it, if they would have only had time, they could have probably gotten their injunction. I believe they should have gotten their injunction. Hey, what's up, Midnight's Edge? How you doing, buddy? Let me hit you with a moderator. You don't have to do anything. Just want to make sure I see you when you're in the chat there. So. I think I owe you a response, don't I? I will respond to you. I'll respond to you. I think you sent me a message or an email or something. I am good. I'm good, man. I hope you're good. All right. So that being said, we will continue with the rest of this lawsuit. We'll finish it up tomorrow. This is a very well drafted complaint. I'm very glad that they went back, they took the time, and they did the work. I'm also glad that they folded the federal complaint. Because the federal complaint was bad. They had permission to amend it. There's no reason for it to be in federal court, and the boomer judge showed exactly why it shouldn't be in that courtroom. Boomer judge didn't understand. By the way, I'm going to maintain my position here. Parler is dead, and Parler is dead because that court refused to issue the injunction. It's done. Even if they win this, Parler could win $1 billion. It's still dead. It's over. They should scrap Parler, start over with a new thing. Especially if they win, especially. Fold Parler, put those resources into a new social media network built on the same architecture, come up with new branding for it. Don't let anybody know it's Parler and build it up. Do it. But Parler's dead. Nobody cares about it. Like I said, I don't know that I've gotten any new followers. Let me check my notifications on Parler. I got a couple followers today, I guess. Well, it says I got some followers. But really, what? How many do I have? I still have 2,000 followers. 2,000, less than 2.1 thousand. I've had that the entire time. When is it going to grow? When is it going to go to 2.1? I'm gaining followers faster on Twitter, and that's embarrassing. I'm so shadow banned on Twitter. It's crazy town. It's crazy town. You're not shilling it? Why would I shill it? It's dead. It's dead. By the way, while I was live covering the the impeachment hearing and all that stuff, I was posting on Parler just as much as Gab and Mines. Gab and Mines grew, Parler didn't. Just organically. I wasn't out shilling those things either. They were growing during the streams. And and I get more interaction on Gab and Mines, even though I have half the followers that I have on Parler. Parler's dead. It's done. I didn't do as many posts to the Fediverse, but I do post every show link to the Fediverse, by the way. I hate having all of these platforms, mainly because I can't respond to people. When I have to check 5 different places, it's the responses. I can tweet in 5 different places, right? I can copy and paste the tweet in 5 different places. That's easy. It's reading and responding to the comments, following up with notifications. It's impossible on so many different places. I don't want to shill Mines and Gab. Angry Baneling, I think you're missing the point. I hate having all these platforms. They're all bad. They're good platforms. They're all bad because I can't keep up with the notifications on any single one of them, much less 5 different ones. I'd much prefer everybody on locals because that's where I'm going to be focusing. You need to show your law practice in your voicemail. No. I'm not shackled to Twitter. I don't even like Twitter. I'd much rather be on locals. Get a platform publishing tool. It's not about posting to each one takes 10 seconds. I just Control C and Control V on all of them. It's the follow-up. It's managing the notifications. Let's get to the super chat so we can watch a movie. Fine, Hydrosphere, you scumbag. Okay, we'll do it. Malik Foxon says, hey, Susan, sending you another one of these nice little messages. Feel like this is going to be an ongoing thing, so strap in. Fuck you and your retarded censorship. Damn. Centrality says, hi, Nick. I need a good lawyer ASAP who's near Kimball County, Texas. Can you help me find one? Maybe email me. Night of Hope says, when is Ron Toye going to do an apology for taking Farmer John's property? I can understand it's really hard to get a boyfriend when you look like you were trampled by a horse, but Ron, that doesn't justify nabbing what you mistook for an actual stallion. Wolfgang says, Cuomo thinks this dork that is being covered by this text is a complete nerd with a beautiful noise and needs to get Lawcat or it keeps the dislikes. Porsky says, man, what happened to Honor Among Thieves? Dwyer agreed to a $300,000 kickback for a CTA contract, and he publicly brushed his teeth with a .357 Magnum. These modern-day assholes act like they are invincible. I don't know what you're talking about, Porsky. What the hell? Is that Jay Dwyer? What $300,000 kickback? What's a CTA contract? I don't know what any of that is. Malik Foxon says, on Cuomo, I've learned my lesson. I'm sorry literally sounds like you're acknowledging the possibility of guilt in a lot of people's eyes. I don't know why people are so obsessed with optics can't catch on to this shit. Exactly. Wolfgang says, breaking news, it has been discovered that Texas unmandated masks in order to scare away the Californians and avert potential disaster. Malik says, on pot calling the kettle the N-word, I wasn't paying attention, then you said that, and I was like, what? He put that in a legal document? Maximum funny if that would have been real. You got my hopes up for a second. I'm glad to dash those hopes. Wolfgang Deo says, smash that dislike button. It does what it is told. Wolfgang says, poker pawn loves big noses. Cal Clay says, hey, Nick, gonna be my last donation for a while. Grandmother told she has stage 3 lung cancer. Thank you for your wonderful content. Source of great laughs. By the way, the book 40K Inquisitor Draco, an overly explicit gay erotica endorsed by Games Workshop. Alpha Busa covers it in vid. Oh, God. We might have to do a read-through of that. Sorry to hear about your grandmother, man. I hope she gets better. Ed Gein says, internet is still down, so no tombstone for me. I hope you enjoy it. I'll go play with rocks or something. It's your fault that I'm doing this stupid movie, Ed. Ugh! Wolfgang says, just pick a platform you like, locals, and turn off notifications on everything else. Just check the other social media when you feel like and are prompted on locals about and enjoy life. Yes, there we go. Ishaelson says, pour one out for Eddie. He was a good boy who passed away this morning. What a magnificent kitty. Aw, man. This is for Eddie, Ishaelson. Mr. Leon says, but where did you go to school? He also says, no, Nick, don't piss off YouTube. They will take away your play button. Good luck getting it back, YouTube. Wolfgang Deo says, dislike until Lawcat. F name, L name says, you're literally stunning and brave in those tweets. Wolfgang Deo says, I have 2 muted live streams so they get views. Redacted says, beta. Nick Naylor says, lol. Nick lets me say the F word on locals. The fun F word. Yes, there is no moderation on locals except for literally violent speech because everybody has to have it, and porn because locals probably doesn't want to deal with the potential for C-porn. But that's it. That's it. You can say all the gamer words you want. Cars in Depth says, if someone published the canceled Seuss books, what copyright could the foundation claim since they won't publish them? I mean, they have a right to not punish them. One of the core property rights is the right of alienation, the right to prevent other people, or the right to divulge yourself of the right. And if they don't divulge themselves of the right, they have the right to never publish them. So actually non-publishing them would make fair use even harder. Joshua Sanabria says, did I read that right? The Parler suit is in Washington State Superior Court in King County. It's not a good sign. I think they're going to lose that one. Why is that? Cherkun says, chairs love, chairs life. They were definitely going to win or lose the federal suit because the federal judge had no idea what an internet was. Wolfgang says, Nick, I agree. However, I see no affidavits, and so it is always playing with fire, but he seems to be calling the bluff of the Democrats doing this. You're talking about Cuomo, I guess? Don't ever apologize publicly. It's a bad plan. They'll only use it against you. Joel's Journey says, Andrew Cuomo sounds like every other guilty person ever. He says, Shane Dawson had a better apology than Cuomo. Emily Wooten says, I'm sharing your channel everywhere to bring patriots together. One is Bards FM. Please check it out. We must stand together and be as informed as possible. Bards FM. I'll check it out. I played a Bard in EverQuest. Fname Lname says, is Amazon's conduct criminal to Parler's users? No. Eric Nail says, have you looked the Amazon's bestseller list lately? No, I have not. Why? Let's see. Where's books? Bestseller list. It's okay. We'll pull this up. Look at this. All Dr. Seuss are the best sellers. Brutal. We got Sister Souljah here at number 7. But Dr. Seuss, Dr. Seuss, Dr. Seuss, Dr. Seuss, Dr. Seuss. Jordan Peterson, Beyond Order. 12 more rules for life. I like to give you rules. Rule number 1, wash your balls and then wash my penis. Then you've got the Lorax, Stephen King, more Dr. Seuss. God, Dr. Seuss is dominating the charts on Amazon. Dominating it. Of the first 30, they're like 26 of the first 30 books. Beautiful. Beautiful. Were you an OG Barton EQ, the original party fast travel solution? I was. I played a bard since, I think I started a bard in Kunark. Still. Captain Z says, whiskey hurts too much the next day, but rum does hit me with a dreamful aftermath. Does this make me less of a man? Also, cheap rum is the best rum. No, it doesn't in any way make you less of a man. Rum is a manly drink. Rum is a manly drink. It's less pure vodka. That's what rum is. So good job. Captain Z says, doesn't, not does in regards to rum to whiskey. Oh, I see. Doesn't this make me less of a man? It was fine the first time. No, you're fine, buddy. Drink your rum. Enjoy it. Gwaine1 says, since you drink from last night tasted so much like dirt, do you think that Star Wars girl would enjoy it? Probably. But maybe not because she can't chew it, which is disgusting. Heel versus Babyface. Oh, you beautiful British bastard. I am so depressed that we have not done our painting stream. And I am going to hit you up, and we are going to schedule a painting stream. Good Lord. I need you. I need you in my life, Az. I need to grift you into my life. Because when I eventually come for a Black Library Weekender, I'm going to stay at your house. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay. Batgoat says, for the 1K shot, nicely done. Hey, thank you, Batgoat. The Raging Majority says, Nick, can you cover the Papa John's PR company extortion leak soon? There's a court document and everything. Very eye-opening to what they did to him. I have no idea what that's about. Send me an email or a message or something. Bad Vibe says, Spaceballs, this is now Scroob. No, now or now then? Yeah, the Screwballs. Austin Heartless says, Amazon's contract in a nutshell. You can sleep with the fishes in 30 days, or you can take a dirt nap right now. You tell me, it's up to you. I come to you, I bring you a contract. All you gotta do is moderate the content. You can't moderate the content, we're gonna moderate you. Maybe your wife, maybe your kid. Heel, you've been stalking for hours? You always tell me you're not awake. What are you doing awake? It's not even people time in Britain right now. Let's see. Joshua Sanabria says, does that mean standard deals with the devil aren't valid in Washington? Correct. Lanny 109 says, working through the pandemic has been good. Have a little money from the tax man and I. Right Crow says, when is now? You just missed it. Batgoat says, Kermit ASMR, your favorite movie quote. What is my favorite movie quote? Rico, you know what to do. I don't know. I don't have a favorite movie quote. Do you guys have a favorite movie quote? F name L name says, I'm the only one who responds to you on Parler. Yeah. Would you like to know more? That's not a knife. Shut the fuck up, Donnie. Be a daisy if you do. Earn it. Earn this. Very nice. Yes, Saving Private Ryan. Good. Get to the chopper. I am no man. 37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks in a row. Oh my goodness gracious. If he dies, he dies. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's the super chat. Oh wait, no. We got a couple more. Ed Gein says, fuck you, man. I didn't ask for my internet to go out. Watching streams on mobile and shit like some kind of homo. This wouldn't have happened if you just watched the fucking movie in December. This is justice, as far as I see it. Porsky says, Bud Dwyer offed himself during a press conference in 87 for kickbacks. Today's politicians, when they fuck shit up far worse than Dwyer did, they don't suffer any public recourse, let alone self-inflicted recourse, and that's and that's a damn shame. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Actually, my favorite quote from Big Lebowski is literally, obviously you're not a golfer. The guy picks up the bowling ball and he says, the fuck is this? And he drops it. And the dude says, obviously you're not a golfer. That was my favorite line by a long shot from that movie. And that's in a movie full of great lines, but that one is so subtle and understated. It's beautiful. Heel versus Babyface. Oh, he says, I love you. I love you back, you beautiful bastard. Glenn Kermit. You see these leads? These are the Glengarry leads. And to you, they're gold, but you don't get them. Because to give them to you would be just throwing them away. Big Lebowski is not on Watch Party, Angry Baneling. So, all right, guys, that's the show for tonight. We're going to move over to Twitch. We're going to watch Tombstone. We're going to watch Tombstone. It'll be fun times. I've never seen it. Never seen Tombstone. I know. I should probably be beaten in the streets for it. So, Ooey says, peace. And with that, I will see you all tomorrow. Reminder, there is no stream on Friday night. Friday during the day, I will be on Eric Hunley's show at 11 a.m. Central Time on Eric Hunley's show. Come hang out. Eric is a great dude, interviews great people like moi and others, and we'll have a good conversation about some stuff. Come over there, check it out. Angry Baneling says, I'm your Huckleberry. For now, come over to Twitch, hang out, and we'll be having a good time. All right, guys? Have a good night. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some law-splaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all
Midnight's Edge says, I love you $5 more than Az.
Raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair.
Bad Dragonite says 1,000 Sons or Prospero Burns.
One who was born many
I like
children.
Prospero
As
Burns.
the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an art bag, a bow, more a love rug. The spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nan to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we are now. Oh, the guests are all plenty folks, from Doug T to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we choose is
99
the
says, I'm
one
just
who
sending
is
this chat to interrupt the
showcasing
song.
us his
Rude.
career. Get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nan to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed